Everyone, and welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. A little bit of a technical issue there as we get started, but we are now here for the build-up show for Backlash. So without any further ado, let's get into the intro.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.
All right, once again, welcome back to the channel, guys. Apologies for that delay in starting. I also see that it's created a completely different stream on YouTube, so that's quite frustrating. And I know people were waiting in the other stream. Hopefully, they'll find us over here. But I hope you're doing well, and hopefully no more technical issues throughout the rest of the show. Let's get into some of the big stories surrounding Backlash. Of course, we saw SmackDown last night, which was a pretty fun show. I think the Gingerbread Man was probably the highlight of it for me. But interesting opening segment, of course, with Jacob Fatu. And yeah, just a pretty fun card overall, I think, when it comes to Backlash. Let's get into it, though. Let's talk about some of the things that we're expecting to see tonight. We got, as I say, Gingerbread Man. His buddy Chick Williams is defending the US title against Sami Zayn. We've also got a tag team match with Danhausen and a surprise tag team partner going up against The Miz and Kit Wilson. Then also we've got a announcement from John Cena, which is said to be kind of a record, changing the face of WWE and all this kind of nonsense. We'll see if that really is the case. We've got Asuka versus Io Sky in a grudge match. Really looking forward to that one. And we've got Seth Rollins versus Bron Breakker. Talking of grudge matches, that's a big one here, of course. Then in the main event, you would imagine the World Heavyweight Championship is going to be the sole focus of the end of the show, where Jacob Fatu goes up against his cousin, the Tribal Chief, Roman Reigns, in a match that I'm sure is going to be full of drama and antics. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the show. I hope you are as well. Let me know in the comments what match you're most looking forward to, and how you feel about this kind of post-WrestleMania kind of build towards Backlash. It's always quite difficult, I think, for the talent and for WWE, for booking wise at least, to try and kind of ride the wave of WrestleMania, whether it be hopefully positive, but sometimes turn a corner because something might have been bad. And of course, WrestleMania was a little bit mixed in that sense. Night 1 universally not enjoyed, it seemed, and Night 2 universally loved. So it was quite a strange one, and I'm interested to see what they do tonight and what people's thoughts are on WWE at the moment, their build towards Backlash. But yeah, appreciate you guys tuning in. If you're new here, my name is Scott. This is the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. Again, apologies for the technical issues at the start, and for those that maybe jumped on the other version of the stream before they tuned in. But this is it. We are live on the build-up show for Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling and for Backlash. And the idea is to get you guys hyped up and in the mood for the show overall. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to throw it over, first of all, to my original predictions. Thank you to those that tuned in last night. But if you didn't get to do that, then we're going to play a replay of my original predictions, essentially. This was shot before SmackDown, so please keep that in mind. Although I don't think any of my predictions would really have changed based on what's on SmackDown. The interesting thing about SmackDown, and they seem to do this a lot now, is that they start telling stories beyond the PLE. So, for example, Gunther and Cody Rhodes was a big part of last night. And that's nothing to do with this show. Of course, they're building towards Clash in Italy. And you've got to imagine some of the people on this show won't be featuring on that show. So it's an interesting way they do it. But later on, we'll have Lucas joining us. And we'll dive into the card in more depth as well. We'll talk last minute rumours and stuff like that. But for now, as I say, I'm going to pass it over to me from the past, where you'll see my original predictions from last night. I'm still going to be here in the chat, so I'd appreciate if your comments came in. I'll be chatting away with you, and then at the end of the replay section, we'll be live again. Again, our panel will be here, and we'll be breaking down the card a little bit more in depth, and again, talking those last minute rumours as well. We'll also go through some of our favourite comments when we come back on the air live as well, so stay tuned. As I say though, here is my original predictions for Backlash from last night, and again, I'll be back just after this. Everyone, and welcome back to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. My name is Scott, and we are here for the weekend kickoff for Backlash Weekend. Yes, we've got a bit of a WrestleMania hangover, and we're going to see if we can deal with that with quite an interesting card. So we'll be breaking down that right after this.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.
All right, once again, guys, welcome back to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. Thanks for tuning in. It is time to kick off a big weekend in pro wrestling. Anytime the WWE hit you with PLE, it's time for us to come back and break down that card and get you hyped up and in the mood for the big PLE weekend. This time, of course, it's coming from Tampa, Florida. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. I mean, look, there is always a slump after WrestleMania. We haven't even been on air since the releases, which is always, again, at this time of year, seems to be something that knocks people. So Backlash is, you know, it's always got a lot of kind of things going against it, in my opinion. And sometimes they go down the route of rematch mania, and sometimes they try and freshen it up. I think they've gone for the freshening up thing this time, but even when they do that, sometimes it can be a bit of a placeholder, and I think that might be a bit of a common theme as we make our way through the card here. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to break down the card itself. I'm going to give predictions. This is being recorded just a few hours before SmackDown goes on the air as well, so we'll be talking kind of Raw go home reactions, and then of course on the build-up show we'll be back live on the night of the PLE as we always are to kind of break down the card and all the last minute rumors as well. But as I say, you're tuned into the weekend kickoff show. This is the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel, and as I mentioned on Saturday, you'll also see the build-up show. This would also be featured as part of the early section of that show as well, as far as replays go. But look, you're with me live on Friday night, so let's talk about where we are at the moment. And yeah, again, we are close to the PLE itself. Let's get to some of these comments here as well, flying in already. Jesse says, is it tomorrow? Yes, the show is tomorrow. Well, in our universe, Friday night at the moment. Casper's here, good to see you, buddy. Says, good evening, Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling. Hope you're doing well. I was shell-shocked after some of the wrestling releases, Casper says. Yeah, me too. Some of them, even when you do go, oh, I can kind of understand where that comes from. I was saying this to some friends the other day, like, they're still, I don't want to say avoidable, because in some cases, like, it's just turnover and that's just the way businesses go, right? But in some of the ones where you go, oh, I can see that because they haven't done much lately, a lot of times you're like, well, or the last thing didn't work that they did. It's like, well, it didn't work because, like, they weren't given anything good, you know? So I know it can be a kind of, you know, can go in both ways, really. But yeah, for me, some of the releases were just a bit kind of a slap in the face of, like, that could have worked if there was a bit more investment in them. Yeah, again, some of that might come up because I think some of it, weirdly enough, plays into storylines we're going to be talking about for Backlash as well. But let's get to the card itself. As I say, you will join us on a weekend preview show. We've got the US Championship on the line. Trick Williams, of course, having picked up the victory at WrestleMania, will defend against the former champion Sami Zayn. Man, things have changed since these two faced at WrestleMania. We've also got Danhausen, who at the moment is still yet to announce his tag team partner at time of recording, going up against Kit Wilson and The Miz. Another match we've got is Asuka going up against Io Sky in a grudge match. Then we also have, talking of grudge matches, Seth freaking Rollins versus Bron Breakker, of course, his old running buddy from the Vision, now bitter enemies. And surely what will be the main event is the World Heavyweight Champion Roman Reigns defending the title against Jacob Fatu. So again, that is the card for Backlash this weekend at time of recording. So let's get into it. Let's talk about predictions, things like that. I want to know what match you're most looking forward to as well. So keep your comments coming. And again, hopefully you'll join us on the night of the PLE where we will talk last minute rumours as well. But at time of recording on Friday night, these are my thoughts and opinions on the build and where we are looking as we head into the weekend itself. Again, thank you for tuning in to this weekend kickoff preview. Right, without further ado, let's get into the card and breaking down each and every one of those matches individually. And first off, we mentioned it a moment ago, of course, is the US Championship. Sami Zayn going up against Trick Willie, trying to get that title away from the man with the lemon pepper steppers. He won't do it. Quick prediction for you there. He won't do it, and he shouldn't do it. And to me, Sami Zayn should be kept away from mid-card titles anyway, because I think he should have been winning the world title right about 2 years ago. I know there are people who view this channel and on this very channel and guests at this very channel when we do our build-up show as well, our friends in the wrestling media world who might not agree with me there. But look, I can't deny that at the moment there's a real slump for Sami Zayn. And again, I think that's something that could have been prevented as well. Much like other storylines that I say didn't work and maybe factoring into releases and stuff like that. But for me, they've missed that opportunity now and they're trying something different. And I do appreciate that. So they are clearly, Sami Zayn is a bad guy. Trick Williams is a good guy. And there was a lot of debate about whether or not they would do a double turn at WrestleMania. It didn't really happen on the night. It's just a continuation of that gradual change of both characters kind of going in that direction. But watching the highlights of last week's SmackDown, where Sami beat up the gingerbread man, again, I mentioned this as we head into WrestleMania. I wasn't a fan of that stuff, but if they're going to do it, make the best out of it, I guess. And I think they've started to do that. At least there's some comedic bits with it. But yeah, it just felt really off. As much as I like Trick Williams, and I think he is... was naturally being turned into a babyface by the fans. I just felt like when I actually saw it executed this past Friday on SmackDown, last week's SmackDown, as I say, it felt off. The chemistry, yeah, people were cheering Trick, but because he was a bad guy, it's a bit of a weird dilemma. I don't think it just made me think about Trick as a good guy in NXT, which was good as well, but he was much better as I've enjoyed him much more as a heel. And yeah, naturally he was going to turn into a good guy anyway, but I just can't help but feel it because of the slow burn. It just feels a little kind of not cemented, and it feels like I'm watching the same characters that did. I don't know. Some would argue the sharper turn would have been more shocking, more harder to kind of adjust to, and maybe a slow burn is better. Maybe in some storylines, but in this one, I just can't help but feel like both of them are still in the wrong role. And again, that's what it felt like going into WrestleMania. It felt like the heel wasn't the heel and the good guy wasn't the good guy. And I still feel the same way now that they've actually switched. It just feels, I don't know, something is not satisfying about this feud. But again, maybe that's because of my own hang-ups about what I want for both guys. But look, the match itself, I thought they had a good match at WrestleMania. I think they'll probably have a decent match here as well. Lil Yachty's still around as well, so yeah, he's still involved, of course. But yeah, I just I don't see Sami Zayn winning this, and this is always going to be the problem with Backlash. It always feels like they don't really want to reverse the things they've done at WrestleMania. Reversing the title change so quickly is not usually something they do anyway, but doing it after WrestleMania and basically not voiding the results, but kind of going back on it in some sense, I think is always something they try and stay away from, I feel. So I don't see it happening this time. I don't see Sami Zayn coming away with a championship. If he does, I'll be very shocked, and I just don't know where they'd be going with that. I mean, Trick, he's the good guy now, and he's a champion. Might as well just stay that way. So let's get some of these comments here as well. JC Mateo and Tonga Loa gone. The Kyrie was a shock. Yes, Casper, we're going to get to that in a little bit, especially the Kyrie one, because, of course, it does factor into one of the matches that will be featured on this card. Sludge is in the house, says, yo, I'm going to SmackDown today. Oh, fantastic, Sludge. Hope you have a great time. Yeah, let us know how it is. Join us on the build-up show on Saturday, and yeah, let us know how it goes. Fantastic. Hope you enjoy it, mate. I think Trick Williams will win this match. He's only just won the belt, says Casper, just a few weeks ago at WrestleMania 42. Yeah, I'm along the same lines as you as well. The Gingerbread Man's funeral was tonight on SmackDown. I'm struggling to see what Craig was trying to do at this point. Look, now I got to be honest. As much as I said I didn't like the Gingerbread Man, that's made me laugh because I didn't know that was the case. I was gonna run through some of the SmackDown card. Again, this is being recorded, of course. If you're watching live, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But if you're watching on demand, this is being recorded before SmackDown. Okay, I see it here. Trick Williams hosts a funeral for the Gingerbread Man. All right, I'm looking forward to that at least. Just because of the weirdness. Yeah, also on SmackDown, Jacob Fatu's kicking it off before challenging Roman Reigns at Backlash. It says Rhea Ripley, Charlotte Flair, and Alexa Bliss join forces to take on Fatal Influence. Again, the continuation of last week's shenanigans. Gunther is going to address his attack on Cody Rhodes as well. So a lot of that doesn't really play into Backlash. Of course, Jacob and Roman we'll get to. They had a really kind of fiery end to Monday Night Raw as well. But yeah, Trick Williams hosting the Gingerbread Man's funeral. We'll see how that one goes. Right. That's really thrown me, that. All right, let's get into the next match that is on the Backlash card. And it's Danhausen and TBA versus The Miz and Kit Wilson. I've got to say, I'm really pleased about this one. I think these are three guys, there'll be a fourth, who really deserve something here. I think they've all been doing fantastic work. I mean, the first to pop up and make a name recently, at least, would be Trick Williams. Kit Wilson, there we go. Kit Wilson, I think he's been amazing since his unfortunate situation where his tag partner, of course, got injured and he kind of got left in the wilderness on his own. But I think he's done incredible on his own. I say on his own, now he's teaming with Miz, don't get me wrong, but his character and all that has developed individually, and he's kind of now paired with the Miz, who's always just slot him in a position and he'll do a job, and he'll do a really good job at that. So really pleased to just anytime the Miz gets featured, because he's usually making someone else look good, and for me, I really appreciate that. So they've done really fun stuff between the two of them, but also Danhausen in there as well, who, as I said to Lucas as we're heading into WrestleMania, he's one of my favorite things about WWE at the moment. So weird looking back to that reaction, right, when he debuted and people were frustrated and annoyed, which even at the time I thought was ridiculous, that people felt that way. To me, it was obvious for the most part it was probably going to be some Danhausen or something like that. I don't know what people expected, The Rock or something maybe. But yeah, for me, ever since then, I think he's really won the audience over, and I think he's been fantastic. Who's going to be his surprise tag partner? Look, it might get announced on SmackDown, so this may be dated by the time you watch it on demand or on the replay section at the earlier part of the build-up show. But just in case it's not, I'm just going to dive into my prediction here and say maybe Jelly Roll. I don't really see what else they could do. I don't really see any characters that link. I mean, I know there is that kind of link with him and CM Punk in real life. On air, R-Truth's a similar kind of character, if as far as comedic value, but of course he's tied up with Damian Priest, so it's not necessary there. So I don't really know off the top of my head who they could put with him. Any suggestions, guys? Put them in the comments. Let me know what you think is going to happen as far as this tag team match goes and the surprise partner of Danhausen. But for me, it's either going to be something really silly or what's his face again? I've lost it now. But you know who I just said a minute ago. Jelly Roll, there we go. Talking to something silly. But no, I got to be honest. Jelly Roll, I think, seems like a nice dude and has done well since he's been in WWE, despite his kind of lack of being a wrestler. So yeah, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. I mean, last PLE, of course, WrestleMania, there was so much talk about the celebrity involvement being overdone. A lot of rumours that Jelly Roll assumptions that Jelly Roll would have been a little bit more involved than he actually was, and I think they tastefully did it in the end, probably considering all the backlash, no pun intended. So yeah, I think this might be where Jelly Roll gets involved. To not promote it, which is why I think they could say something on SmackDown, to not promote is a little weird. Big star like that, it's the whole point of why they're doing it. So they would have held back, it would seem, at WrestleMania, and then also somewhat held back for the effect of the surprise here as well, so you don't really get the full thing out of it. But then at the same time, the headlines are still going to be the same after the show. You know, it might not get the eyes on the show originally, but replay value in online kind of stuff, you know, clips, it'll certainly be there anyway. So yeah, Jelly Roll and Danhausen versus Miz and Kit Wilson. I mean, man, if I would have said that a year ago, I would have been thinking someone was talking about, you know, fantasy booking on their WWE game. But yeah, looking forward to this because it's just silly, and I've enjoyed everything that they've done together so far. And I think you need that on the card. You know, I know when we get to the build-up show, we're going to have more members of the Rebellious Noise team on there. I got a feeling Lucas is going to feel the same way about it. You know, we've talked in the past about having that different kind of comedy relief here and there, and just something to kind of freshen up the card. And I do think this is an occasion to do that, and they deserve to be on the PLE. You know, often it's the same characters, and these kind of storylines, as good as they can become, just end up being weekly storylines and payoffs on weekly shows. So, yeah, for me, I'm pretty pleased to see this on the PLE card. Some people might think it's not PLE quality for that reason, but no, it'll be an entertaining moment on the night. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Casper says Ricky Saints needs a stronger showing on SmackDown tonight, and Danhausen and his partner match should be a fun Carmelo Hayes. Oh yeah, or Mr. Iguana, could be a number of people. Yeah, there's a few names in there. It certainly could be Casper. So yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, when it comes to the result, I mean, obviously it's a little bit tough to predict when you don't know who the partner is. I mean, the comedic foil, you know, it's always been, you know, the heel in these kind of things, and the past few weeks has kind of been that way as well. They've got their one up on, you know, Danhausen seems to get their, you know, the one up on the Miz and Kit Wilson. So maybe this will be different because, I mean, it's not like Miz needs it, and Kit Wilson's a somewhat comedic character anyway, as well. So maybe it's not needed there either. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world if Danhausen loses, because he can get a bit of sympathy as well. But I also don't think that character needs it. You know, he's kind of just that kind of, I guess that, yeah, just like a wacky kind of, yeah, gets away with it type character, you know. So, yeah, a bit of a pest, bit of a nuisance, and just kind of charming with it. So I don't think the result matters at all, if I'm honest. But I could see it more likely being Danhausen and his mystery partner, especially if it is a celebrity like Jelly Roll. Because, yeah, again, Miz and Kit Wilson taking a finish from Jelly Roll or whoever it may be, or Danhausen, isn't out of the question for me. So, yeah, I'm going with Danhausen and whoever he's with to win this one. Casper agrees, says I do think Danhausen team is going to win this one as well. Yeah, good. Great minds think alike, don't they, mate? Let's get to the next one, though. We've got Kairi Sane versus Asuka. Now, this is, again, that example I've alluded to a few times on this stream already, of where a release is really weird and unfortunate. Of course, Kairi Sane is no longer with the company. There are rumours going around that they might even still use her at Backlash to tie up the feud, which kind of gives me vibes of the R-Truth return. What was it, last year now? Similar in some sense, but very different in another as well. And I think if they did do it, it wouldn't be about her getting a job back. It would be about this one moment. If they did it as a bit of a swerve, it'd be, again, very similar to what they did for the R-Truth thing, because, I mean, I've seen 24, but I still don't know how much I'll buy it. Or when the decision was made and why it was made and all that weirdness. Either way, just weird. Weirdness here as well. I don't know. I mean, I think I can understand why WWE probably looked at it and thought, well, she's not actually vital for this story. Even though from afar you would have assumed that it would have had a big pop when she turned on Asuka or something like that. But then where would they have gone? I just don't see them, you know, let's say she's not been released. Let's say this is a month ago. I'd be saying the same thing. I don't see them pushing Kairi Sane, even though it's ridiculous because she's such a great talent and arguably was more over, I felt, in NXT, or like it felt like the bigger star out of her and EO for a bit. Io has definitely massively taken over that spot. Asuka herself obviously was in that spot years ago, and she's stepped back, and and this feud is kind of telling that story in some sense. The master and the kind of apprentice. But yeah, for me, it is a shame that Kairi's not involved. If she does get involved here, cool. I'd like to see her. But like, bring her back then. But then it's like, why don't they bring anyone else back? So what? Just because that story is kind of still going on. But then at the same time, it's that argument of, it's weird when they do this, when they get rid of people when they're in stories, or they've just been in stories. The White Six, they were just in a story. But again, another example of where they could have been doing more. I mean, Kairi Sane was definitely a background character in this, quite literally, quite a lot of the times. And yeah, it could have been more. So a real shame, but let's not take away from those that are still there. I'm sure Kairi would want these two to get the credit and attention and focus that they deserve. This is a feud that's been building for a long time now. Of course, you've had Rhea Ripley in and around it as well. Now it's just a one-on-one situation, it would seem, with Asuka and Kairi Sane. Asuka and Io Sky. I think Io should win because, yeah, it's not for a title or anything like that, but Io, out of the two of them, right, Io is the future. They don't need, unless Asuka won and was being like really over the top using weapons, and then Kairi come out to make the save and Asuka still gets the win. I don't see a need for Asuka to win. I mean, I'm past the whole Asuka deserves more and should get more. I still think she should have at many times, but at the same time, she definitely is kind of over that, the other side of the hill when it comes to her career in WWE, right? So she's not going to be the one they're pushing to become world champion or anything like that. I mean, she could hold that spot, don't get me wrong, but I'm talking long term here. It's not really looking that way for Asuka, so I don't think there's any need to protect her in that sense. Io's the one out of the two of them that probably needs that more at this stage. Asuka versus Io Sky and Kairi 50-50. She might show up. Should be interesting, says Casper. Yeah, I'm not sure if she will show up. I know there are a lot of rumors about it, but yeah, even that, again, I just feel like it would muddy the waters and it'd be a bit strange. But yeah, wish the best for her, as I do everybody who got released. There are some really kind of good talents that have been released, and it's always a shame to see that happen. But hey, they can go somewhere else, and hopefully the grass will be greener for him there as well. But yeah, that's where we're at with Io Sky versus Asuka. For me, again, as I say, Asuka doesn't need to win. It's not a massive deal breaker for me if Io doesn't win, but I think she's more likely to kind of be booked that way. So yeah, for me, I'm going for Io Sky on this one. Now, as I say, you're tuned into the Weekend Kickoff show, and that's what we're doing. We're kicking off the weekend for Backlash. Of course, the show comes live from Tampa on Saturday night here in the UK. It starts, I think, 11 p.m, so a few hours earlier for us than usual as well, so I'm looking forward to that. We'll be hitting you with a build-up show on the night of the PLE, as we always do, to try and get you hyped up and in the mood and talk last-minute rumours and get our friends from the wrestling media world and other members of the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling panel to give their thoughts and last-minute predictions as well. So make sure you tune into that on Saturday night. You may be tuned in already and watching this as part of the replay section on there. If you are, stay tuned on Saturday night for the live portion of the build-up show. But let me get to this comment from Casper. It says, I was a bit disappointed Aleister Black was just let go again. Yeah, it was such a weird return, wasn't it, Casper? Just a year, and again, not much happened, right? He just came back a year ago, as Casper says, and big plans for JC. Mataro heard he had a big push. Yeah, JC just nosedive straight away. I mean, I like the MFTs, but it was clear for a long time, like even the ones that they got rid of, it was, what's weird about the JC Mataro one is that he was massively over before he got there. And then, Talatonga, you can see why they'd want to keep him. Tamatonga's great talent. Tungaloa, it didn't seem to be clicking for him at times. So him and JC seemed the most likely to be on the chopping block. It's weird that they've continued that feud and moved them into, the Bloodline story again, without acknowledgement of the rest of the MFTs. Like Tamatonga wasn't with them on last week's SmackDown, for example, either. I don't know, just to move them away and freshen it up maybe, or kind of make us forget, and it was just Solo and Talatonga. But yeah, it's just another strange example of a few continuing, like the Asuka and Io Sky one. There was another one, just thought of another one, but I can't remember. I've forgotten it now. But there was another one like that I remember. Maybe it was last year's releases where they did the same sort of thing. But anyway, let's move on to the next match on the card. We're going to predict, and it is Seth freaking Rollins versus Bron Breakker. An interesting match because I think this could be a main event, right? I mean, especially if you put a title over the shoulder of Mr. Rollins right there, as he would have had a few months ago. You could have seen this as being well, maybe even WrestleMania worthy when it comes to the championship. For me, Bron Breakker's got to get a win. He's looked really strong lately, looked very strong on Raw. The way he threw Montez Ford over the ring, by the way, was hilarious. A credit to Montez as much as it is a credit to Bron Breakker there. But yeah, for me, Bron Breakker's got to win this one because Seth Rollins just, he's cemented. Again, I'm not going to say I don't think he's low as Asuka is in the pecking order as far as kind of that, Asuka is, future Hall of Famer, so is Seth Rollins. Asuka, she's got less world titles ahead of her than she's had in the past, in my opinion. Seth's probably the same, but that's more so because Seth has been such a big star for WWE. It's kind of the same trajectory on a bigger scale maybe, but I don't think it's just a bigger hill, let's say that, because he's reached a bigger mountaintop, I feel, Seth Rollins, because of the way WWE have used and booked him. So look, not that I think he's at the bottom of it on the other side, don't get me wrong, all these analogies about hills and mountains, but what I'm getting at is I don't think, again, it's his time to protect him so much. I think it's about pushing Bron Breakker. Bron Breakker's climbing up his mountain, and I think he's the one that needs to win here, because he had a bit of a setback after the loss to CM Punk, and on the Raw Netflix debut anniversary they did beginning of January to celebrate a year on Netflix. So I think it's a bit of a strange time for Bron Breakker. Obviously, come back at WrestleMania was a big surprise, attacking Seth Rollins. Yeah, you could argue Seth therefore needs to get one up on him, but I think overall it's Bron Breakker that needs to win this feud. I liked his promo with Seth, where he was saying about him and Bronson Reed in the background, and he was sick of hearing the same stuff and all this kind of stuff. I do think they pulled the trigger too early because they kind of were forced into it with injuries and stuff like that. The surprise of him attacking Seth, when he did turn, was really good, to be fair, even though, again, it didn't feel like the original plan to go there early, at least. So, yeah, it's been a bit of a strange year, really. The Division were formed, just over a year ago, right? Just after WrestleMania 41, and it's not been as successful as I would have hoped. There were things I liked about it. I felt like it was a bit of a slow burn. I know Lucas really was down on them for quite some time, and the fact they didn't have a name and stuff like that didn't help. But I actually was quite enjoying their work. Even at the moment, like I'm glad Logan Paul's in the group. I'm glad Austin Theory's got something, but they're completely different now. It feels like when Curtis Axel and Cesaro became Paul Heyman guys, and then it just kind of got quietly forgotten about, similar because, again, Paul Heyman involved. But yeah, getting back to the match itself, I think Bron Breakker's got to win this one. It's just no point in giving the win to Seth Rollins. He's come back, and glad to see him back. Glad he's doing well after his injury, but it's all about pushing Bron Breakker. Unless this feud goes much longer, which it could, but again, you could argue it's been in the making for over a year. Does it really need to go much longer anyway? But have we reached that crescendo? It's kind of hard to know when you haven't got those original ingredients, right? Like Bronson Reed around as well. Who knows when he's going to come back? So it does depend. If this is the end of the feud, but I kind of see it not being, actually. So if that's the case, then I would maybe say there's a chance for Seth to win. But just to kind of keep it simple, I think I'm going to say Bron Breakker. If he doesn't win this, he wins the feud, and that's the way it should be as well. What else do we have? Cody Beerus in the house. Always good to see you. Thanks for tuning in over on Twitch. So tonight's a sad moment. What's the sad moment for? What have I missed? What are we sad about? Casper says, I did feel WWE Backlash. I wasn't feeling the build up a few weeks ago, but Bron Breakker needs to win, and Seth might go over. And Bron beat down on Seth, but I'm getting into the hype a bit now. Yeah, okay, good. I'm glad you're enjoying the story, mate, and what they're telling lately. I can kind of see what you're saying there, that maybe Bron does a big beatdown at the end, regardless if he wins, essentially. To be fair, he should really bring out the rest of the division, even if Bronson Reed's not there, right? They should tie it up into the division again, especially if they're going to continue this feud. It's probably what they need to do. But then Seth conquering the division just seems a bit weird. Him on his own just seems a bit weird. There's a lot of noise coming out of WWE right now. It's not just constant 24/7 noise and no break in the news. Yeah, there's a lot going on. WWE at the moment. I mean, there was a lot of stuff about the contracts, weren't they? And rumours of people taking 50% pay cuts and stuff like that. I'm sure that would be an interesting topic for us to dive into on the build-up show as well. But yeah, as you said, there's a lot going on with WWE. It's always a weird time of year, as I mentioned earlier on. And this PLE can suffer because of it. But I'm hoping it does deliver. I mean, I think it's a good card overall. So let's see where we go with it. Let's get into the main event, though. What's surely going to be the main event is the World Heavyweight Championship match between Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu. Now, this one is one I'm looking forward to because I think it's an interesting feud, but one I kind of... Backlash and Royal Rumble the same in that they tend to have these stopgap championship matches, and that's what I feel like this is going to be. If Roman loses the belt straight away, I'd be shocked. But at the same time, maybe I wouldn't, because maybe it's just a way to put on Jacob Fatu. I mean, you talk about a person whose kind of hype died down and lost a bit of their momentum. Jacob Fatu certainly was out, especially when he came back and it was confusion around whether or not he was a heel and then kind of attacking Cody and all that kind of stuff. He just didn't feel the same as when he went away, when he had turned naturally into a babyface. I will say, though, the past few weeks, I think he's really ramped back up. I think he's a really intriguing character again. But, again, that confusion about whether he's a babyface or a heel is not helped by the fact that it's the same thing with Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns, I think, technically is a good guy. And, therefore, you want to assume that who he goes against is going to be a bad guy. And Jacob Fatu is pretty much a good guy, but he's acting a bit like a bad guy. So, it's a bit confusing. And I know it's not always going to be babyface heel dynamic, and they've said that in the past that they don't necessarily have to have it that way all the time, but it definitely helps. Confusing, kind of times like this, because I just don't know if they're getting the right reactions that they want. If Jacob wins it, there will be a lot of people that are upset that Roman's not the champ anymore. Whether it be little kids who just want to follow the babyface and they think Roman is the babyface, or it'll be, the huge amount of fans that despite any kind of issue with Roman Reigns, they're going to cheer him. Look, there are people that cheered him when he was not as kind of cool in my eyes, when he was the big dog, and I always thought there was potential in him. But obviously, we've been here a million times talking about the past of Roman Reigns and that switch become, that when he became the tribal chief and all that, and that completely kind of new side of his character and how much of a kind of revolution to his career and WWE that was. But there are people that were just fans of the big dog all along, and will always be a fan of the big dog. And if he goes up against anyone else, then he wants the big dog. They want the big dog to win. Then you get the people that kind of maybe newer fans never saw that side of it and only ever saw the cool Roman Reigns, and therefore he's the coolest thing they've ever seen. And whether he's a babyface or a heel, ultimately he's their tribal chief and they want him to win as well. So I think it's a risky move to put Jacob in his position, as much as I do think naturally he would be in his position. And I think naturally that is a good story to tell, Jacob versus Roman, but there are no kind of clear lines defined as far as their, babyface heel dynamic. And I think that's a problem. Saying that, I've enjoyed the work they've done together. Both of them have done good heel work and good babyface work. I really liked on Raw the ending, the Tongan Death Grip, and I liked how Roman basically was saying, like, that's the kind of thing you do when you're desperate in a bar fight because you just want to take the guy out. You don't do that to your family. You don't use those kind of things with family. I like that. I thought it was a really cool story he was telling there. Also, telling a good story, the terror in his eyes and looking towards Adam Pearce, like, as if to say, like, are you going to help me? Like, I thought it was such a cool bit of selling from Roman Reigns. So, yeah, really like what I'm seeing there. Obviously, again, this is being recorded just before SmackDown. Jacob Fatu is going to basically kick off SmackDown, talk about his match, I'm sure. So it'd be interesting to see who kind of comes out on top before we head into the PLE itself. But as of this show, at the moment, Jacob Fatu is looking the one on tops, which usually means they're not going to win. I don't know if Roman's going to be on SmackDown, so it might just feel the same way if Jacob comes out and says a few things and yada mean, and that's it. And technically looks like he's on top of the feud, and therefore Roman defeats him at Backlash. But either way, I think Roman does defeat him at Backlash. I think Jacob becoming world champion isn't a bad idea, particularly the World Heavyweight title. But the whole reason why I wanted the World Heavyweight Championship around the waist of Roman Reigns in the first place was because I felt like he should give it a bit of credibility, but not for too long. But this would be too short. I think, yeah, you still got him in the record books. Yeah, you still see that title around his waist in promotional things and his, historical kind of, imagery and stuff like that in years to come. But at the same time, I don't think a month is enough really to kind of build to where they need this title and where they need the challenger to be. Again, I think eventually Jacob Fatu winning it makes sense, and I think Jacob Fatu beating Roman Reigns is pretty cool as well. They've thrown the Usos back in here now as well, which again is basically we're back where we were a few years ago, and there are problems with that, but there also, I got to admit, there are things that I'm just like, whatever, I like the bloodline. So we got them back, but again, there are problems in the bloodline, right? So all those same problems crop up. Is it going to be more members and all this kind of stuff? I mean, they've played into it already with Solo and Talatonga, and what's going to happen there? Why are they involved in this feud? So maybe that's what happens. Maybe Solo costs Jacob Fatu, and we go back to them facing each other, and that kind of helps Jacob become more of a babyface and build back up again. But at the same time, are we not just going back to where we were a few months ago? Roman goes off to do something else, I don't know, or Solo gets involved and it becomes a triple threat next PLE, and maybe that's the way to go actually, because I think Solo deserves something as well. He's really fallen into the background, and I think he's done some of his best work this past year. So they took some of his stable away from him. I think it'd be nice for him to kind of get some sort of reward. So if this is all about getting him back into the kind of main event scene, then I'm for it in that sense. Let's get some of these comments here. Casper says, Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu, I'm looking forward to it, but I wasn't feeling this at the start, but should be a good match, to be fair. Just because Roman Reigns, WWE status, I'm thinking Jacob could win. That's a good point. Yeah, again, all these rumours going around, particularly around Roman Reigns, right? He was advertised for dates. They said it was a kind of admin error, essentially, that it was taken off. It was never actually supposed to be there, they were saying. Interesting, right? Who knows what's the truth? But yeah, Casper says, I'm going to go for Roman Reigns to beat Jacob Fatu. But Roman Reigns is pulled for all the June dates, as I just alluded to there. Why I was thinking Jacob Fatu might go over. Yeah, Casper, I think that's a good point, actually. If that is the case, if there is truth in that, then you could be right. You could be right that Jacob Fatu is the easy way to get off of him. And again, maybe this is what they were doing all along. They needed to get the title off of Punk and onto Jacob Fatu, because maybe as much as I say, you've got this weird babyface heel dynamic between the two cousins, it would have been even weirder maybe with Punk, because at least Roman acts like a heel, But then you also had that with Roman and Punk, right? They were both a bit heelish and babyface-ish. But yeah, I think ultimately, for me, Jacob Fatu should win the feud, or someone should benefit from Roman, being the champion slayed, right? I think this whole thing of taking the title off of Punk has to be worth something, and I think that's why they've done it. Although having watched most of the Hogan documentary recently, it does kind of remind me of that, how they just kind of were like, well, he's the one that makes us loads of money, right? Let's just put a belt on him, as they often did with Hogan. So hopefully that's not what we're seeing with Roman Reigns, and it is designed to kind of put someone else over. And is that someone else Jacob Fatu? As I say, maybe, but I don't see it happening at Backlash. If Jacob Fatu comes out of Backlash with the World Heavyweight Championship risen above his head, I'll be pleasantly surprised, but I'd also be quite frustrated in some sense, because as I say, I feel like, ironically, I can't believe I'm saying it after the long reign that Roman had, when we were all kind of thinking, when's it going to end? There's always a risk that we're going to get another one, it feels like, right? If we don't get off him quick enough, we might end up there. But I just think 1 month is kind of too short, considering that long kind of reign as well. I mean, Reigns himself has not looked the strongest since he lost to Cody Rhodes, right? He's been involved with high profile matches, but he's not been on like a dominant role or anything like that. So he's finally got to the top of the mountain again. On the other side, of course, with the here's another mountain analogy, with with a different title this time. But yeah, it'd be weird, in my opinion, to take it off him this quickly, even though I feel like the whole point is to put someone over, and it probably is going to be Jacob Fatu. But saying that, as I mentioned, Backlash sometimes just throws up these random stopgap feuds, and maybe that's what we're getting with Jacob. And the idea is that they just expose Jacob to that level, and you know, working with someone like Reigns and being in the title picture, that it rubs off on him, even if he's not going to win the title. Kind of like they've done with LA Knight a few times. God, just remembering there how LA Knight, they never pulled the trigger on that guy. But yeah, I think they will pull the trigger on Jacob Fatu. I just don't know if it's going to be a Backlash. So I'm going to go with Roman Reigns picking up the victory. Your tribal chief, your OTC, coming out as World Heavyweight Champion. All right, so that is the card in full, guys, and that brings us to the end of the predictions. Thank you so much for tuning in for this weekend kickoff show. If you haven't already, please subscribe and check out more of our content. Again, this is being recorded on Friday night. If you are watching on the replay part of the build-up show, then stay tuned for that, because that will be live very, very soon. But if you're with me on Friday night, then make sure you subscribe so that you see when you get notification, I should say, for the build-up show as well. Make sure you press that little bell button to get those notifications. But yeah, if you are new here, then I appreciate you tuning in. I mentioned LA Knight a moment ago. We've also been privileged enough to have the opportunity to interview LA Knight. So if you haven't already, as I say, subscribe, check out more content on this channel. It's not just previews and reviews of PLEs. We often do content outside of that, such as interviewing some of your favorite WWE superstars. A big shocking story recently, of course, was the release of the New Day. We were privileged enough to interview Big E when he was WWE champion a while ago. And yeah, I wish we got to interview the other two members of the New Day, because they just seem like great guys. And yeah, what a crazy story that was, man. Talking about weird releases. I mean, I know they apparently negotiated themselves out of it, but man, there is so much I want to dive into with the rest of the panel when we get to the build-up show. So make sure you stay tuned for that as well, because again, there's so much going on, as Casper says, in the world of WWE news. Also said more releases. Was a bit disappointed about the Wyatt 6, but I do get it. They didn't have any direction for the group, but I did like the Wyatt 6. Completely agree with you, Casper. Wasted opportunity there. I know WWE might look at it and say, well, we tried and we did this, but I think if we're honest, if they're honest with themselves, they could have done a lot more with them. Yeah, there was a lot kind of left behind. Yeah, and as you say, New Day leaving was crazy as well. But as I say, yeah, that does bring us to the end of the show, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to this weekend kickoff show. I appreciate all the support and the comments that have been flying in, and any that arrive on demand we'll try and get to as well. And as I say, this will be replayed on the build-up show, so make sure you tune in to the build-up show where we'll be breaking down the card last minute, talking about anything that did get added or kind of changed because of SmackDown, and we'll hopefully have some of our friends from the wrestling media world to break down the card as well and talk last minute rumors. But once again, I've been Scott. This has been the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you on the next one. Cheers, Casper. All right, well, this is the next one. We are back. We are live. We are here on the build-up show to talk all things WWE Backlash. I hope you enjoyed the replay of our original predictions from last night's weekend kickoff show. And if you're new here, hey, welcome along. We appreciate you. If you've been here for a long time, you know we appreciate you as well. My name is Scott. This is the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. And as I say, you were watching the weekend kickoff show. You're now watching the build-up show. And what we like to do on these streams is get you hyped up and in the mood for the big PLE. It also helps us get hyped up and in the mood for the big PLE. And it's the first one in the post-Mania world. Of course, it's a big one on the calendar, just to kind of deal with that slump, as I mentioned in that original stream from last night as well. Just going to get to some of these comments here as well. I see they've been coming in while we were playing that replay, and we appreciate Isaac says, hey, RN Pro Wrestling, 5 matches tonight, WWE Backlash Tampa Bay, Florida on ESPN2 or Disney Plus. And you've reminded me there, Isaac, that yeah, the opening hour is going to be on ESPN Live for free, which is something they trialed, of course, with WrestleMania. And it is also going to feature the John Cena announcement, which I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about as we get through tonight's stream as well. Mark's in the house. Mark Caldwell says Seth versus Bron Breakker is opening tonight. Apparently that seems a bit of a rumor going around. Also, rumours about Dwayne being in the city. Now, The Rock, of course, quite heavily linked to Florida, so there is a possibility there. I thought it was quite interesting that I'm sure. Am I right that Roman said Rock in that promo on Monday Night Raw? I wasn't sure if he said Rock or Brock, but I think it was Rock. But yeah, weird to bring up that name if that's the case. Mike also says with Seth Bron opening, that says to me that Bron's winning with interference. Who knows? Well, I don't know what stage Bronson reads that, or if it could just be the rest of the guys in the vision. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there was an interference. And also, again, I wouldn't be surprised if with the victory, because as I said in the comments, I think he should be winning, or probably will be winning anyway. Bron needs a rebuild too. Yeah, he has to win, says Mark. Fully agree with you there, mate. Not been the greatest 2026 for Bron after such a strong 2025. Jelly Roll is the partner as things stand for Danhausen. Yeah, that's the rumor going around at the moment that it is going to be Jelly Roll, and EO has arrived, says Mark. We are moments away from hopefully being joined by Lucas, and I imagine we're also going to have some countdown stuff to react to as well. It's not usually that exciting these days. There's no matches or anything like that, but whatever happens on the show, we'll kind of keep you up to date with that as well. But if you are new here, again, my name is Scott. This is the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel, and why don't we just show you what we're all about.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.
All right, so yeah, that is a little bit more about us. Again, as you would have seen in the trailer there, it's not just podcast with previews and predictions and reviews and stuff like that. We've also had the opportunity to interview some of your favorite WWE superstars and do some pretty fun wrestling content beyond that as well. So again, if that's the kind of thing you're into, then make sure you subscribe and check out more of our content. You're here tuned in though to the build-up show, and what we like to do here is again get us all hyped up in the mood for the big PLE. It's not going to be just me doing it though. I am going to be joined by another member of the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling team in bringing in Lucas very soon. Really keen to hear what his kind of thoughts on the build to Backlash has been, this kind of fallout to well, from WrestleMania I should say, yeah, just how the state of WWE, because a lot of things have changed since we were last on air. Of course, WrestleMania was a big story in itself, or many big stories coming out of that, but since then we've not only had the build to Backlash, but the changes and things swirling around the company as far as TKO, rumors around contracts, and of course people sadly being let go as well. So I'm going to be bringing him in just a moment, and we'll talk about those big stories as we get closer to Backlash as well. Mark says he thinks the announcement from John Cena is something to do with Club WWE. Yeah, that's the big kind of guessing game at the moment, right? But everybody seems to think it is going to be something to do with Club WWE. I'll be really frustrated if it is, even though if it does feel that obvious, because they've really kind of focused on how he's really said like this is changing the WWE, and look, they're gonna try and upsell anything they're trying to promote, right? But what's also not helped is he's now come out saying it's like going to be a big thing in his career, and it's like, really, if it's something to do with Club WWE, then that just seems really kind of I guess insulting, really, which is quite frustrating. You never want to be insulted as a wrestling fan, right? But anyway, let me know what you guys think it's going to be. Is it going to be something to do with Club WWE? Or is it going to be something else? Is John Cena coming out of retirement? I very much doubt it. But, that something like that would be big, right? Him actually, it affected his career. I believe it if it was something like that. But nothing to do with Club WWE. Right. Without further ado, though, let's bring in Lucas for just a little while. And we'll hear what he's got to say. Lucas, how are you doing, mate?
Hello there. That sounds so weird.
Oh yeah, that was a bit weird. I said just for a little while because I appreciate you've got some stuff going on in the background as well. You're gonna be shooting off in a little bit and then hopefully rejoining us. But how you doing, man? How are you looking forward to Backlash?
To be fair, like it reminds me of I watched one the other day actually, It reminds me of an in your house card, you know,
Okay,
from back
yeah.
in the day. Obviously, for those people, obviously maybe newer fans, in your house was what they did before. They had, I think that's my food right now. So yeah, I will
I'll
share
throw
with
you out, or we'll bring you back.
Yeah.
See you in a bit.
In a bit.
Right, hey, it all happens on the build-up show. Look, I want to know what you guys are having for food as well, because that's a big part of these PLE nights. We always like to know what you guys are going to have as your PLE snacks. Is it going to be a takeaway like Lucas seems to have got? What are you eating, what you're drinking? Hey, on the build-up show, sometimes we go a little wild, have a big old Stein here as well. I'm going to be talking about Steiner very soon. But yeah, it's always good to kind of know what you guys are your PLE routine. So let us know that as well, guys. We'll have Lucas back in a little bit when he's munched down some food, I'm sure. But yeah, let's get to some of your comments and see what you guys think of the card and what you think is going to happen on this show tonight as well. So Mark says feels old that Gunther's favour was the WWE title. Yeah, so Paul Heyman said it was getting in the match, right? But then getting him to sign it would be Cody's own thing, which I just felt was a bit of a mismatch. And surely, if the Brock thing's legit and it was him just being like, no, I'm done, and nobody knew, surely it was supposed to be Brock Lesnar, and they've kind of tried to pivot there. Because why would he get him a title match? I mean, yeah, he's an advocate and whatever. Unless he aligns himself with him a bit more, it's a bit strange. But we'll see where that goes. Casper's in the house. Says, good evening, gang. Scott and gang at Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel back in the house again. The Gingerbread Man, yeah, the Gingerbread Man segment did make me laugh a bit. I didn't mind SmackDown. I enjoyed it. Yeah. So last night when we were on the weekend kickoff stream, Casper said, Casper told me about this funeral for the Gingerbread Man, and I didn't know it was actually happening, and I actually burst out laughing on the stream because I actually thought it was quite funny. I wasn't the biggest fan of the Gingerbread Man thing when it started, purely because I feel like it's very old fashioned and 90s to be like, Sammy's ginger, so let's call him the Gingerbread Man. It was just didn't sit well with me. Sammy's now a bad guy, and they've not straight up done it like that. Gingerbread Man's just been part of the storyline, weirdly enough. What an odd thing to say. But I really enjoyed that segment as well. I thought it was really funny, and all the kind of stuff they did through the night, where the wrestlers wearing black, and those tributes to make it look like Gingerbread Man had worn those. He'd been there in the past and stuff like that as well. I thought it was pretty cool. But yeah, really, really enjoyable segment. If I'm being honest, I really did enjoy it. Let's get to some more of this commentary as well. Mark says to me, though, that Brock is really done. Yeah, I got to say, I think Brock probably is done. Mark says, oh, yeah, the Gingerbread Man was all Molly Holly. Are you saying it was like the Molly Holly segments from the past, or are you saying it was produced by Molly Holly? What are we saying here? Casper says the SmackDown was a bit run, but the internet was melting down about the Gingerbread Man segment. Crazy. Yeah, I don't mind. I thought it was decent. You meant it was odd. What else do we have? Originally, he was meant to fight Roman. Are we talking about Rock here? Or are we talking about Gingerbread Man? Mark, who's meant to fight Roman? And also says sneaky suspicion that Kyrie is in Florida. So yeah, we talked about this on last night's stream. Of course, she was released, and there's a lot of rumors about her still being involved with the storyline. It kind of reminds me of the R-Truth situation, where R-Truth, of course, came back to WWE. It would be nice to tie up the storyline in the bow, but like in some ways, why would Kyrie do that? Like, if I was Kyrie, I might just be thinking, screw you. But at the same time, it creates a huge amount of buzz if you show up and people start asking for you to come back. Even if they don't bring her back, Kyrie will suddenly be a lot more exciting than she was just a few weeks ago. So as far as presentation goes, so it would feel a lot more important. So again, maybe I'd be more tempted in that sense. Even if I weren't going to get brought back for a job, I might be being like, you know what, let me show up and show them what kind of reaction I could get. And because it is, out of the ordinary and she's out of the company, it would be a big reaction, right? So bigger than it would have been before, I reckon. So Sludge says, hello, SmackDown was fun for me yesterday. It was fun live, but I didn't like that the funeral was the main event. Yeah, so again, we were just talking about the Gingerbread Man's funeral. Sludge, fantastic. I'm glad you had a good time. I know you tuned into last night's stream before you headed to SmackDown, so good to hear that you did have a good time, and thanks for tuning back in, as you always tend to do on these build-up shows as well. Always good to have you with us, buddy. What was the best thing in person for you, Sludge? Like, who had the best kind of reactions? You say there it was a shame that the Gingerbread Man was the main event, essentially. I get that. As at the end of the show, that's not, if you're especially there live, that's not what you want to end the show. And I assume there was a dark match after it or something like that to send people home happy. Otherwise, that would have been really weird to just end the actual live show like that as well. But yeah, I really appreciate your comment, buddy. Let me know what you thought as far as the live show goes. Who had the kind of best reactions? That'd be interesting to know as well, the general vibe of the fans. Mark says she was the producer for the Gingerbread Man story as far as Molly Holly goes. That's quite surprising because Molly herself was in storylines that were related to, I don't know, like, do I use the B word, bullying? Like, I just think it's a bit weird to be like, Sami Zayn is ginger, let's call him the Gingerbread Man in this day and age. Like, for ginger kids to then go to school and have their classmates call him Gingerbread Man, I just think it's very 90s. Like, I don't know, man. It doesn't really sit well with me, that side of the story anyway. But anyway, originally Gunther was meant to fight Roman, says Mark. We were talking about Gunther earlier on. Yes, I should have clocked who you were talking about there, mate. Of course, Jacob Fatu tonight with Roman Reigns. We'll touch on that in a bit. Casper says, fun. I should have said, not run, trick, taking the bread out the oven. Oh, yeah, it was quite funny. The build-up package was, yeah, that was fun. Lil Yachty was the Gingerbread Man, of course. Yeah, that was quite fun. The way he sat up like The Undertaker, I thought was really good. Sludge says, in regards to being live at SmackDown last night, honestly, Rhea got the loudest pop, bigger than Cody, and there was no dark match after the match. Surprising. That's quite weird. So at the end of the show, at the end of the Gingerbread Man's funeral, people just funneled out and went home. That's weird. But yeah, thanks for your comments, mate. He said also, yeah, again, just touching on that there, like the biggest pop of the night was Rhea Ripley, which it's not really a surprise, really, because she's been so over lately. I say lately, over the past few years, right? So yeah, not a surprise in that sense, but to kind of specifically point out that she was getting bigger pops than Cody, I think that's the kind of again, not surprising thing, but interesting note, I would say, because Cody is, as much as there are people that boo him and stuff like that and want him to be a heel, he's still massively over as a babyface in many circles of WWE's fandom. Sludge also says there was a dark match before the show, which was probably the best in-ring match of the night, which was Fraxium versus OTM. Why am I blanking on OTM? OTM? Why am I OTM? Why am I not understanding who you mean there? Out the mud. Oh, okay. Yeah, the guys from NXT. Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Didn't expect that. And then Mark says, kind of funny, though, we have WWE Backlash and a Triple A show on the same night. Is tonight the one where they've got the Mask versus Mask with El Grande Americanos? Is that tonight? I mean, that's interesting. You're right. That's strange timing. Casper says, I did love Ricky Saints versus Matt Cardona. I love and want more of Ricky Saints on SmackDown. Get to see more of him. Yeah, I think he's had a good showing so far. He only debuted a little while back on NXT's roster, right? And already he's called up to WWE's main kind of shows. He's on SmackDown now. And yeah, already I think doing quite well as well. That's the end of May, says Sludge. That's at the end of the month. Oh, okay, yeah, referring to the Mars versus Mars match. So there's just a different AAA show on tonight. Okay, fair enough. I was going to say that'd be, I know it's a lot of people were calling for that match to be on the WWE's kind of banner as far as like a WWE branded PLE rather than a AAA one, but I get why they're putting it on AAA to kind of draw eyes towards that. But yeah, I would have been even more shocked if it was up against or the same night as Backlash at WWE PLE. You know, that's even more kind of strange. But yeah, that makes a little bit more sense then. Brilliant. Keep your comments coming, guys. Let us know what you're most looking forward to about tonight as well. Some interesting points there about Friday Night SmackDown. It didn't really change my opinion on, I guess, what I think is going to happen on Backlash. I'll quickly go through my original predictions once again. Just before Lucas comes back in, just so we can kind of recap on those. So Roman Reigns versus Jacob Fatu. For me, this one here is pretty straightforward. I think it probably will be Roman Reigns. I think Jacob Fatu has probably been put in his position to maybe beat Roman Reigns, but I'm not sure if it's happening just yet. Seth Rollins versus Bron Breakker. See rumours going around, thanks to Mark in the chat, that maybe this is going to be opening the show. I think Bron Breakker has to win this one, and he probably will. He's had, again, a bit of a strange 2026 so far, so it would be weird, in my opinion, for him to come back from injury and lose to Seth Rollins. Kairi Sane is sadly missing from this poster. You'd imagine she would have been heavily involved if she had stayed part of WWE. She would have still been involved with this storyline, but it isn't to be. Again, there are rumours that she could still show up tonight, despite not being under contract. But Io Sky versus Asuka, the Master versus the Apprentice, is still a good story they've been telling there. So I'm hopeful that they'll get some good time and have a good match, despite the kind of weird kind of setback they've had in their storyline. John Cena tonight is said to be making a major announcement that he is now not only touting as kind of changing the industry in WWE, but also a big moment in his career, which I really hope means it isn't actually about Club WWE, but we'll have to see where we go with that one. Also on the Backlash, a little bit of comedy relief here. We've got Danhausen and a partner to be announced on SmackDown. He looked like he was trying to clone himself, but I reckon it's probably going to be Jelly Roll. That's all the rumors at the moment. A lot of people think it will be Jelly Roll, and I think it probably is the most likely. Just had a quick look at that, glance over that, and it looked like I was looking at Miz and Morrison for a split second there, from like 2009 or something. But yeah, Miz and Kit Wilson, the team that I think have actually worked quite well together. They really complemented each other, again, comedically, and I think they've worked very well with Danhausen as well. Another big name people think it could be, and it would be quite a fun shock, and maybe just fun for this guy to just do, is CM Punk. But I think it's less likely. And then also, we've got the US Championship on the line. We talked a little bit about the Gingerbread Man's funeral on SmackDown, which was a fun segment, I do have to admit. But Trick Williams is defending the US gold against the former holder, of course, Sami Zayn, who only lost it at WrestleMania, so I can't see it flipping back to him just here. But let me know in the comments what you think is going to happen tonight, guys, and what you're most looking forward to on the show. So I said, surprisingly, every match is predictable. I'm most excited to see who Danhausen's mystery partner is. And again, I think it probably will be Jelly Roll, but I'm open. I don't mind if it's Jelly Roll, and it kind of reminds me of when Danhausen debuted in the first place, right? It was a lot of silliness, and people were annoyed there wasn't something, I guess, bigger. Even though I think Danhausen's been a big part of the WWE show since, and a big money maker for him at least. So that's almost weird to say, but you know, people expected some wild things. But I think Danhausen was most likely. It was obviously a kind of comedic thing that it was going to be, and I think it's worked quite well. This time around, we've seen him trying to clone. Even it looked like he stole Brie Bella's hair. So if he's going to clone her, is Nikki Bella just going to come out of it? I don't know. But yeah, Jelly Roll seems the most likely. So Jelly Roll coming out of that would be quite funny. I don't know if that is what they're going to do, but that's where I am as far as like predictions go and kind of expectations, and that's fine. Anything Jelly Roll itself would be fine, but anything else would be a bonus anyway. So, yeah, because it would be a surprise. I'm guessing Dom not defending at Mania was hopefully a Taker call and not Hunter's. Yeah, there's a lot of changes when it goes to the Judgment Day at the moment. So maybe they're just kind of putting that on ice at the moment. And then you've got, of course, Dom again, yeah, being a big part of AAA at the moment, and Undertaker booking that. I see Roman holding until SummerSlam or Money in the Bank, says Mark. It's not too long. When is Money in the Bank this year? Usually it's like June or July. Has it been moved because Was it Money in the Bank that got given to New Orleans or something like that because of the lack of WrestleMania that they were supposed to get? There was something about Money in the Bank this year feels kind of make up for something and out of place. So that makes it later in the year, which means if Money in the Bank was in its usual spot of June or July, I'd be like, yeah, that's all right. Yeah, Roman shouldn't hold it for too long. But I think, yeah, even wherever it is, if it's just before SummerSlam, getting into the summer itself, yeah, I don't think Roman should have the belt for too long, but I think tonight would be way too short if you really want to kind of benefit from the fact that he's had the title in the first place. Io needs to win against Asuka right now, despite needing a rebuild right now. Just needs to help rebuild Io. I think Io is still a big star, but he doesn't necessarily need too many wins, but I think you're right on this occasion. I think she has dipped a little bit lately, and especially kind of lost a bit of her shine when she didn't even feature at WrestleMania, which was a real shame, because going into last year's WrestleMania, she was such a big part of the story, even though she was in the background, let's be fair, of that feud as well, but they even played into that. And she's had a fantastic year, but kind of buddying up with Rhea Ripley's kind of gone against her when it comes to WrestleMania season, at least. So here's her chance to shine. Sludge says Jellyhausen. That's a good name. I like that. Jellyhausen could be could be what we see tonight. Morrison is bald now, says Mark. You're right. My eyes were drawn to it. Like I said, it felt like 2009, 2010. John Morrison, John Morrison. He changed his name too many times, and like a lot of other people's names. But yeah, he is bald now. Casper says Saturday night, May 23rd and 30th. We've got Clash in Italy on Sunday, 30th of May. It will be an interesting what WWE do, but I think Cody Rhodes dropped the title Clash in Italy. Yeah, I mean Cody himself, I don't think he needs to have a long title reign. Of course, he kept it at WrestleMania. Yeah, I wonder if... I think Gunther needs to win that title specifically. And I think it's a good call, to be honest. But we'll get to that when we come to the NMA. Got to agree, I think it will be Jelly Roll more likely, says Casper. Mark says, would have liked to have Orton wrote off TV with an on-screen suspension instead of him just disappearing. That's a good point. Yeah, he turned on Pat. Is he just going to come back as a babyface and they just give up on that whole experiment after SummerSlam in reference to Mark's previous comment there? No, that was in reference to Money in the Bank, right? Yeah, Sludge also says it's in September. So that is quite a way away from, compared to where it usually is. Excuse me while I take a sip my giant beer. Again, I want to know what you guys are having tonight. What's your snacks? What's your food? What's your drinks for the PLE? I don't mind Brie Bella and Paige holding the tag titles for now. I like Paige anyway. Glad to see her again on SmackDown. I think what they've done has been pretty good so far, Casper. I was saying as we heading into WrestleMania and there were rumours about her coming back, I don't like the idea of them holding gold together because I want it to be Nikki and Brie. That was the whole point, surely. And when it becomes Nikki and Brie again, it's going to be weird that Brie's held the title more than Nikki. But maybe what they do is, surely Paige is turned on or something like that and Nikki kind of gets involved. But maybe they kind of stupidly, and I hate when they do stuff like this, just transfer the title to Nikki. Because Paige is taken out and it turns out it was all Nikki and all this kind of stuff. But they give the title to Nikki instead. I hope they don't do it like that. But that would be a way to kind of get rid of my... other kind of annoyance of like Brie holding it more than Nikki. For me, if Roman drops it tonight, he clearly hasn't signed that deal. That's a great point, Mark. Again, when Lucas jumps back on, hopefully we'll have a bit of time to talk about that as well. But yeah, a lot of rumors going around about Roman Reigns and his deal, right? There were rumors that there were people asked to take 50% pay cuts. Rumors that there were people that took 50% pay cuts. And then rumors about Roman's deal being potentially restructured, and then he was taken off of the advertisement for certain shows, and then there are stories going around that was just originally a kind of admin error, so he would never have been on those shows anyway. All seems a little bit convenient and fishy, right, with the timing. So that's a good point. If he does lose, then there'll be a lot a lot of speculation going on around Roman Reigns and his contract. Jellyhausen sounds like a very nice donut. You're right, Sludge. It does sound like a very nice donut. Talking of food, though, we've got some food comments coming in. We'll get to those very soon. Mark says, referring to the Raw Orton suspension, I meant for Punk kicking Cody after the match. They could have on screen say the move's still banned. Yeah, good point. Yeah, I mean, look at the state of Cody's eyes. So there would have been good reason to say it storyline wise as well, weren't there? You know, they'd have the backup of like, well, just look what it did to Cody's face, and after the history of trying to ban the punt before as well. As I say, some comments coming in about people's food tonight. Chicken wings for Sludge, nice. We got any kind of sauce with the chicken wings or any kind of seasoning, Sludge? Be interesting to know. I might have some chicken myself. I had a takeaway pizza last night. Well, to be honest, I got shish kebab, and I ordered a pizza so that I could have a slice or two with it, and then put the pizza in the fridge, and then reheat it tonight. Basically, to have a takeaway pizza tonight, so that I weren't ordering it too late. So I'm looking forward to it. But I've got to say, it weren't the best pizza. But you know, as my wife said last night, you know, the good thing is all pizza's good pizza. You know, like. Pizza is pizza. It's good. So even a bad pizza is still good because it's pizza, right? Generally. So I'm looking forward to that. And sometimes when you reheat your pizza, it's actually better. So we'll see how that one goes. So that's what I'm eating tonight. Everyone's pay cut went into Khan's pocket. Yeah, loads of, again, more stories coming around about pay where Nick Khan, I should say. Too many Khans to kind of remember to. But yeah, I do feel uncomfortable about the timing of these stories and whether or not, if that is true, the timing of those deals. Casper says, I was drinking this morning, watching Friday Night SmackDown, grab a takeaway in the afternoon, not while watching Football Championship playoff. Had a nap now and a bottle of water to sober up. Hope you can enjoy the show, Casper. Hydrate, stay healthy. Stay on top of things, buddy. And, yeah, enjoy the show tonight. What's your takeaway of choice tonight, Casper? Let me know. What are you going to eat? Thai chili pepper with some ranch. Okay, Sludge. Nice. What combination? I had a nice little kimchi... noodle thing earlier with chili powder, and it was quite nice. Anyway, it's become the food podcast. Let's get into some of the stuff that we're going to see on the show tonight. So again, John Cena is apparently now saying that his history-making announcement tonight at Backlash will be another defining moment of his career. So he's basically saying in the future, when he goes into the Hall of Fame, this is one of the things they'll focus. Yeah. Right. Even if it is something good that's not Club WWE, it'd be hard to put this in a defining moment of his career. But we'll see. Maybe I'll come out of the show completely stunned. Maybe he is returning to the ring. I'd be shocked by that, and I wouldn't want to see it, because as much as the retirement run left a few things to be desired for, we don't need to desire them for much longer. The retirement happened. It is done. Not that I do think it is that, but hey, stranger things have happened in the world of pro wrestling, right? What else is going on? Let's see if we can find any kind of interesting... Oh, here we go. The news is broken as of about 5 or so minutes ago. Bodyslam.net, and now being retweeted or put out there, I should say, by WrestleOps as well, that the card is set to be delivered in this order. Seth Rollins versus Bron Breakker, as mentioned by Mark earlier on, is set to open. Again, this is at time of recording, and this is, of course, the rumours that are going around at the moment. This could change. It could be unreliable, but it tends to be kind of on the nose when it comes to on the night of a PLE. But Seth Rollins versus Bron Breakker seems to be what's opening. Trick Williams versus Sami Zayn for the US title is going to be second. Danhausen and his mystery partner versus The Miz and Kit Wilson is said to be the third match. Then it's Asuka versus Io Sky. Then after that is the John Cena announcement, which is a shock, because I'm sure they said that was specifically going to be in the first hour because it's on ESPN. So maybe maybe they've changed their mind, or maybe this is wrong. Then Roman Reigns versus Jacob Fatu, as expected, to close the show. Let's get some of these comments here as well. Sludge says the 24/7 championship returns. Can you imagine? What a strange time that was. Lucas says, I'll be back soon. Good, Lucas. And then I want to hear all about what your takeaway was. Of course, again, big part of these build-up shows, got to know what people are having to eat as they prepare for or watch along with the PLE. Casper says, not watching WWE Backlash tonight until tomorrow, so I'm resting my stomach, but I've got water now, so I won't be eating for the rest of the night. Casper, you enjoy it. You have a nice, refreshing water, mate, and I hope you enjoy Backlash when you do get around to it as well. But thanks for sticking with us on this build-up show. But as I say, that is apparently the order of the card tonight. So let me see if I can get these graphics up just to run through them as well. Just to kind of recap, where we're at. And again, when it comes to the rumoured order for the matches tonight. Are you happy with that? Do you think it kind of changes your opinion on what's actually going to happen? I don't think it is for me, because I don't think these matches are that important, if I'm honest. I mean, yeah, look, when you say, the US title's on the line, there's some blood feuds, and there's, the WWE, the world title on the line. Yeah, I get that. But I don't see where the big, championships are on the line. I don't think they're actually going to change hands. So I don't think, anyway, so I don't think my opinion would have changed regardless, even if I now know what the order is apparently going to be. But as I say, speaking of which, let's get into the card once again. So just to recap, it looks like Seth Rollins versus Bron Breakker is set to open Tampa's Backlash PLE event. Then after that is the US Championship match, Sami Zayn versus Trick Williams. I mean, maybe this is an indicator of kind of a changing of the title because it happens early in the show, but I don't think so. Then after that, we've got Danhausen and his mystery partner to be announced, facing Miz and Kit Wilson. Really looking forward to that one. And Asuka versus Io Sky is set to be fourth in line on the show. Next up is apparently the John Cena announcement, which is starting to kind of make people wonder now with all these big kind of hype up kind of phrases that John Cena's been using. And then after that is the main event, Jacob Fatu going up against his cousin Roman Reigns. So again, does the order of the card change anything for anyone? Let me know in the comments. Let's see what WWE are doing. Let's have a little look and tune into their countdown show. I would be majorly shocked if they were running a match. They don't seem to do that. No. Trick Williams and Sami Zayn feud, where Trick's buddy was torn apart by Sami Zayn. Quite funny there that Trick did the X sign, by the way. I do. Yeah, it is funny. It is really funny. I gotta say, I've enjoyed it. See, now there are rumours here still saying he's opening. There are people still saying that John Cena is opening Backlash because the first hour was on ESPN too. Just watching a clip here of Triple H arriving. Not on the Countdown Live. This is a clip from earlier on the Countdown that I'm watching online. And they booed him. The fans booed when Triple H showed up, which I know they probably won't take too seriously. And I don't think it's a direct correlation all the time between Triple H and the booking and some of the things that don't go well or what people enjoy. But, he's not the only one there. And there are people above him these days. So I think it's simple to kind of put on Triple H. But that being said, there's definitely a lot of discontent in the WWE fan base at the moment. So I think they need to know that somehow. So Sami Zayn's being interviewed backstage now by Kathy Kelly. He's talking about being tricked by little Yachty and Trick Williams. So again, if you're watching the countdown, guys, let us be your watch-along experience for that until we get towards Backlash itself. We're about an hour and a half away from the show kicking off. Thankfully, it kicks off at a reasonable time for us here in the UK, 11 p.m. Sami's getting a little bit annoyed by Kathy Kelly disrespecting him, so he says. As much as I said on last night's show that I'm not 100% sure it's fully worked yet, the switch between the two characters, I do like Sami's work here, of like kind of just like he was really on SmackDown focusing on like still being there for his ride or die fans, and everyone was booing him. Like he's not understanding it, and I think that's an interesting dynamic. He's saying he's going to humiliate and disrespect Trick Williams tonight on SmackDown Backlash. I don't think he will. Okay, so he's saying I'm going to beat him and then I'm going to move on. Gabby Gay says I'm not sure what stage of grief that is. Okay, so some of the notes going around about John Cena's announcement. History-making news will change the experience for superstars and fans. This does sound like Club WWE. And will shock everyone, from fans to champions and even the rookies. That doesn't sound like Club WWE to me. Maybe it is something big related to Club WWE, not just the kind of announcement or saying, oh, you can buy some tickets and give us loads of money. Maybe there'll be a special show that only Club WWE fans can watch or something. I've been watching a bit more AEW now, and I'm enjoying it. Have you seen Leo Rush, says Casper? Yeah, I've actually quite enjoyed the little things I've seen from Leo Rush lately. I think the changing his character has been really cool. I've always quite enjoyed Leo Rush's work. And, yeah, good to see him getting praise for, some good work going into his character. So, yeah, I'm happy with that. I haven't watched as much AEW lately, Casper, as I'd like to be honest. I've been quite busy, but I'm glad they're doing well. From what I've seen from AEW, they've been doing some good stuff lately. I know some people question the timing and the kind of impact of the Darby Allin win, but generally speaking, I think they've done quite well. Looking forward to what happens in Darby Allin versus MJF in a hair versus hair match. So, yeah, we'll see. Mark says, I wonder how many Hogan documentary advertisers we're going to get tonight. Man, they've got to dial back on the ads in general, right? But the Hogan documentary, I've been watching it, actually. I'm about 2.5 episodes in because I've not quite finished episode 3 yet. I've enjoyed the documentary, but it was weird when those clips came on. I was just like, I've seen this so many times. How many times can I hear about Linda McMahon's leggings? Linda McMahon's leggings is a whole thing I've heard about, but Linda Hogan's leggings. Yeah, Linda and Linda. Didn't really think about that with Hogan and Vince. Right, anyway, I get distracted by things I did not expect to be distracted by on this show, like Linda McMahon's leggings. Lucas is about ready to join us, so I'm going to bring him in just a moment as well. Casper says, I don't see AEW live events, but I'm enjoying Dynamite and Collision. I don't see PLE, but enjoying the house shows as well. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing, as I say, what they do with the Darby Allin MJF match. As far as tonight and the Hogan documentary, I liked it at first because I was like, this is better than watching an ad. Like, I actually like seeing parts of it. It was pretty cool, but when you saw the same thing 17 times, it was a bit annoying. Let's bring in Lucas, though, to hear what he has to say about Backlash tonight. And here he is. Oh, first of all, Lucas, I got to say, what was your food and how was it?
So I had pasta, actually.
A takeaway pasta?
Yeah, pasta evangelists. Other companies are available too.
Of course.
But yeah, basically because I had such a nightmare getting back home and didn't get time to eat en route, so I tried to order it and forgot to do the delay it to later, and it came straight away. Not going to complain. It was very very nice though. It was very
good. Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
A spicy rigatoni, and it actually was spicy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
good,
actually was spicy, nice. Not just like a little bit. It actually was, it was a bit of a...
You can never tell, right? You can never tell. I was saying earlier when you was off, I had this kind of instant noodle type thing, and it was like, it had a little chili sachet, and it was like, if you want spicy, put half the sachet. If you want really spicy, do the whole sachet. And I was like, well, it's going to be too late if I put the whole thing in and I think, nah, this is just not enjoyable. But I do like spice. So I went for 3/4 and I'm glad I did, Lucas. But it's hard, you know. You go one place, they say spice and you're like, that's not really spicy.
there's something I thought that maybe it wouldn't be as spicy because it's a takeaway. Was one of my theories, because I was thinking in a restaurant, if I went there and sat down in the restaurant, but it is a restaurant by the way, it's literally just in Greenwich. There's a few about. Obviously, I could go there, I'd order it, I could say to the waiter or waitress, obviously, sorry, it's too spicy, and they would most likely remake the pasta, wouldn't they? And they'd give me new pasta. But obviously, with a takeaway, it's like, well, I've ordered it, you've delivered it to me, you're not going to really you know what I mean?
It's cool about the drive. Hey, look, hold up, mate.
You're locked in at that point, aren't you?
Yeah.
I did think the portion was a little bit small though, so I actually want to go in and try it. But the thing is about this is I'm terrible for this. I say this all the time, but I use Too Good to Go as well.
Oh
so
yeah,
we're getting onto other conversations.
Of course you do. Hey,
but,
you know these build-up shows go wild, mate.
But you get used to the cheap price, isn't it? When you go in, it's more expensive.
It's hard. It's hard to go back when you've had a deal. It's hard to go back.
But on to Backlash, though. My point from earlier.
Yes.
Sorry for having to leave you straight away. My point is, this does feel very much like an in-your-house show. And in a kind of good way. I guess this month there's 3 events that they've got. Obviously, in a couple of weeks, there's going to be the Saturday Night's Main Event, which at the moment has no matches announced or we've got feuds that we could talk about maybe later on.
Yeah.
Nothing really is set in stone for that. But we'd hope that one of or both of the Women's World Championships will be defended on that show, because none of them will be defended tonight. So, you know, maybe even the women's tag or any sort of tag team title match on one of these events. And then obviously at the end of the month, we've got Clash in Turin, which does have a match obviously announced for it, that being Cody Rhodes defending the championship against Gunther, newest SmackDown signee.
Big news.
So we at least have one match on one direction of what we're going with for that. But yeah, this does feel like an in-your-house show, like, being deadly honest. You know, In-Your-House was famous for having these kind of cards, usually with a couple more matches still. We never let them off the hook.
We've got to mention it at least once, Lucas.
Yeah. But, you know, it would basically be, you know, people call the one-match card, don't they? The one-match show. And it is a case of they've got Roman Reigns on, that's the draw. But they've actually done a good version of this one-match card, and that's the way, because I think every match really has bits that can deliver. I mean, I'm not too excited about Trick and Sami getting another match, but as we know from backlashes in the past, it basically was WrestleMania rematches, wasn't it? Because even for a couple of years, Vince McMahon did call it WrestleMania Backlash, and I still do. But I think the card is actually pretty decent. But obviously the two main things, again, excuse me, I don't know if you've discussed these already, the 2 main things really are the 2 surprise elements that have been added to this thing, with obviously the mystery tag team partner with Danhausen, and what exactly Mr. John Cena will be discussing and announcing and confirming, or whatever it might be. I overheard you a little bit talking about some speculation and some bits and pieces, and I've asked several people, and I've got several different answers for both of these things, which I find good, but also quite scary. I don't know, you know, because obviously if we go back to the last surprise thing, obviously at the Chamber, when, you know, there was a box.
Yeah.
Oh,
which,
man,
by the way, has turned out amazing, but at the time, terrible reaction to it. But
big time
has been one of the best things in WWE. So if that's anything to go by, it could be great.
But we had that, and being realistic, it felt like there was only really like 2 things that were kind of going around with it. That one of them being Chris Jericho, the other one being Danhausen, were the main 2 things. There were obviously little strands of people who maybe thought it was going to be like The Rock, or Stone Cold, or Undertaker. You know, they get those little comments, don't you? But the majority of, you know, people, about 80% or so, went into one of those 2 camps, didn't they? Jericho or Danhausen, and it ended up being Danhausen, and they got booed up the building. Which, you look back now, it's crazy, isn't it, where we are now with Danhausen. But this one feels like, with the Cena announcement in particular, just feels like there's so many things it could be, and I don't actually know which one is actually a good one at this stage. So I'm torn between 2 things. I'm torn between it being something to do with Club WWE, or it being an announcement for WrestleMania in 2020.
Okay. That's a good point, because there's been a lot of chatter lately about WrestleMania. There are rumors that it's been confirmed, And surely that means this is about the time when they do start announcing things like that. So that's a really good point. I haven't actually heard anyone say that. I mean, most people seem to think it is Club WWE, but I'd be open to it being a WrestleMania thing. But it still doesn't add up with what Cena's saying. He's saying it's going to be, a big moment in his career. It's going to change the face of WWE.
So I need to shout out my good friend Kevin Hanley for this one, as we spoke about this earlier today, and the historic part. And I actually might be with him with this. I think they might announce 2 locations for WrestleMania.
What?
WrestleMania in 2028 will take place from 2 different places because they've got 2 nights.
Like WrestleMania 2, was it? When it was in 3 different places.
They've got 2 nights now. They can do East Coast, West Coast. They could do America.
That's a great. That would be so much better.
Because the historic part is what I'm tying into. I think that would be historic. It would be the first time ever we're announcing WrestleMania in 2 locations.
See, my instant reaction to that is that I love that idea. I don't know if the more I think about it, I will, because the logistics of WrestleMania weekend and stuff like that. But if there's ever a time to make it more than 1 location, I mean, the first time they did it was mad. But now technology is so different, and they basically have 2 or 3 rosters anyway.
It'll be 2 nights anyway. I think there wouldn't have to be that travel back and forth necessarily for the majority of people.
Yeah.
And, WrestleMania, I think they've got themselves in a problem with WrestleMania because obviously, if we rewind, 2 manias were promised and haven't been delivered upon. That being the New Orleans WrestleMania and the Indianapolis WrestleMania. They're still owed one. Remember, they had that graphic pop up where they're getting every big 4 or 5. I think they've had 2. The Rumble. Have they had SummerSlam? I don't know. They've had the Rumble, haven't they? A couple of years.
Have they got SummerSlam this year?
No, it's Minnesota, isn't it?
Oh yeah. I get my M's mixed up.
But yeah, sorry. They announced, but obviously they did the big song and dance, of course, with The Rock, announcing New Orleans for meant to be for this year, wasn't it? This year's WrestleMania, wasn't it? Yeah, it was meant to be this year, the one just gone, before they decided to go back to Vegas.
Yeah.
For second year. They then, after that, instead of announcing New Orleans as a WrestleMania venue, they then decided to announce Saudi, which is a separate thing. And this could have been something that was in the works for a long time. Obviously, WWE have got a long deal with Saudi, as we know. And they still have not announced either of their WrestleManias. And then recently, they've obviously said about Nashville. Lots talk about Nashville recently, and let's not forget, just because we are both Brits, they did obviously meet with the mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, and discussed the possibility to bring WrestleMania to London. But that was a long while ago, and it just feels like that ship's very much sailed. But we can't forget these conversations have happened all in the time frame since they've announced WrestleMania going back to Vegas and WrestleMania going to Saudi Arabia. So there's definitely now 3 kind of cities in contention, maybe 4, and maybe a secret 5th or 6th.
And they're the ones that we know about, right? Yeah, because, I mean, do you think if they do it then, right, if that is what this is, and even if it isn't, I think this is an interesting kind of topic anyway. Do you think that they would do it to Saudi this year, or it might be just next year? Because I got a feeling that that's how you fix some of the problems with the Saudi WrestleMania anyway, because it would pull the rug under the feet of those in Saudi, right? It would make them feel like, I thought we were getting both nights, those that organised it. But it reminds me of the early days when they were like the greatest Royal Rumble. Yeah, you've got the Royal Rumble, but now they actually do get the Royal Rumble. That's the difference. So it would solve that.
I definitely think they'd do it to Saudi. I don't. It wouldn't be affecting anything that's already locked in.
I wonder if in hindsight they might have done that though, because it would solve the problem of like next year there is a gap. There's been loads of kind of rumors about the indies still coming together in one location, for example, because they usually take advantage of WrestleMania weekend, or an AEW show to piggyback off of instead, which I think would be a fantastic idea. I mean, could you imagine if we had a big AEW show the same weekend of WrestleMania? It would be crazy. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things they could do there. But yeah, I get what you mean, though. It probably would be likely for the future. But I just wonder if in hindsight, even if they've decided on that, they'll be kicking themselves saying we should have done it for the Saudi one.
It depends how, again, this all theoretical here. Like, it depends if this is the case. Have they decided to do the 2 nights still, both of them in America? Or have they decided one night's American and one international? Or the one we don't think will happen is that both nights will be international, in separate international venues. And I also have a look at the fact that the announcement is taking place in Tampa, which is very much inside the United States. So I think that if it's an announcement about something like a WrestleMania, you'd have to imagine that Tampa or Florida would be one of the venues.
Yeah,
In
true.
discussion. It'd be very weird him coming out and saying, "Oh, we're going to like Nashville." Like, who cares?
Yeah, and everyone in Tampa go, woo!
Yeah,
Like, unless it was to say we're gonna be in the States when you thought we weren't, like say with Saudi.
well, yeah, but that would basically mean that WrestleMania next year in Saudi is cancelled. Which
Well, it'd still go ahead, but it'd just be one night. But either way, if they do it right, if they do have an international and an American one, like whether it's this year, next year, next year, the year after, whatever, do you think that even further drives apart night 1 and 2 for which one's the real WrestleMania? Because if WrestleMania is in London, but it's only one night, and then WrestleMania night 2's in the States, I'm gonna want to go to night 1, but I will always feel like I weren't really at the real WrestleMania. Like the real one's in America.
I think that they would definitely look to address that. And I think the reason, and that's another main reason why I think that if they do this, they'd probably choose 2 locations inside the United States, because I
Right.
think they would want to utilise talent that could go to both locations.
Yeah.
Because whether it be obviously a match on the main show, or whether it be an appearance or a promo or like something, in that weekend or that week essentially, and how it's become. And obviously you've got the thing of Hall of Fame, and you've got the SmackDown before WrestleMania. You've got lots of things Raw after Mania as well. Like, does night 1, do they get the SmackDown before WrestleMania, and then night 2 you get the Raw after WrestleMania? Because it was then two locations, for example.
Yeah.
And then Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Well, Hall of Fame needs to be on a Thursday, or at least a week before. I don't know why they insist on doing that off of SmackDown, but that's a whole other.
SummerSlam weekend, man. That's when it should be.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I think it's a much better thing. I mean, obviously, all people, they're old hips. It'd be better for them to be out in the summer, out and about in the summer, having a barbecue and stuff.
That's another good point. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, going back to the international kind of idea, though, if they did have night 1 and night 2 like that, then I suppose they could do like night 1. It deals with that problem of the potential fear of Americans not liking that the big shows and at a time that they have to watch early or whatever it may be. So if you did night 1, the one on the Saturday, so that it was earlier in the day when you're more likely maybe to be off, and it's not the one that's, let's be honest, night 2 is usually the biggest show usually. So it wouldn't be as damaging if people tuned in late to night 1, I think, in WWE's eyes. So maybe that is how they play into it.
If they did do London, right, we'll use it because it's our show, our country. So 7 p.m. start would be 2 p.m. or 11 a.m. in the States, depending on where you are. So theoretically, if night 2 was then in America, then that would take place the next day at 7 p.m., 7 p.m., whatever it is, their time, right? So there would be like quite a large gap between, there would be. Because it's the same for us. Obviously, we'd watch night 1 at 7 o'clock, whatever it is, and then night 2 wouldn't be on to us till 11 p.m. midnight, for example.
Yeah.
So it would be theoretically longer than 24 hours, which again, even if it is, I mean, we are kind of in extremes of this, but we're not really. But we are in the fact of people could be on, like I said, available for like the SmackDown, certainly before WrestleMania night 1, and even for the start of WrestleMania night 1, and then fly over to be part of night 2. Because like it would be doable. Obviously it's already a tiring weekend anyway. But yeah, it definitely got me thinking about a lot of things, because, and it all started with the Cena announcement again. But it may not even be WrestleMania related. So then the other thing is if it's Club WWE, which I kind of don't think it is. And the only reason I don't think it is because they've already announced it. He's already had his promo package.
Yeah.
So for him just to come out and announce something that's already on social media, would be a bit
They've
weird.
done weird stuff like that before, you know.
They
I
have.
really hope it's not. I really hope it's not, because him hyping up. It's one thing to hype up. Oh, it's going to change the face of WWE. That's one thing, but to come out and say, and I've got to be honest, I haven't seen him say this. I've just seen reports of him saying this, so maybe it's wrong. But apparently, he's said it will be kind of, you know, basically a big moment in his career as well. That would be crazy.
Yeah, like, I think this for me as well will determine a lot of the future of Cena's involvement in the company. I think that if this announcement doesn't go down well, they run the risk of his appearances not seeming as important anymore. You know, like
It's too early to do that as well, right?
yeah,
He's only
because
just
he's
retired, so
you know, I think they there was already some fans who felt that him being the host of WrestleMania so soon after his retirement was a bit soon, and it was very much a money move by TKO. They were struggling with they would deny it, but they were struggling with ticket sales for WrestleMania, and they knew they needed to pull out the big guns. And the biggest gun they've got left, well, we can talk to them, it seems. At the moment, is John Cena.
Even that is mad, though. Like, obviously, that is why they did it. But when you think about it, like, to think that somebody went, oh, I weren't sure, but like now that I can see Cena in the flesh, that's a big deal. Don't get me wrong. But if you're going to pay to go WrestleMania just to see Cena, you've probably paid to see him already. You've probably seen him live in some form already.
Yeah.
So, like, to me, that is a weird, like, and then you would have gone there and seen him announce the attendance. Like,
Yeah.
like,
And then, you know, he basically was a corporate stooge, you know, for them. And, you know,
yeah.
As much as I think he loves the company, you always have to imagine that he can't. He has to stand there with a straight face and announce a number that was 10,000 to 15,000 less than last year, and say it like it was a good thing. Like, we've got 50,000, 60,000. You was on the show, mate, last year.
And
people more.
We got to say, you know, this it's not a bad number, but it's not a WrestleMania number, and everybody knew that they were struggling with tickets as well. So, like you say, it was kind of embarrassing. I got to say though, looking at the countdown show, Lucas, and Kit Wilson's got a fantastic T-shirt on. You know, like the Miz's "Hello," it says "Hello, I'm," and then "Not toxic." So nice to see him.
Hello, I'm not cursed.
Hey, it does. You're right.
He
just revealed it.
So I'm assuming
he's just revealed it on my stream. So,
nice. I like the original. Yeah, here we are. Hello, I'm the Miz. Brilliant.
Yeah.
License to print money, I think, these T-shirts.
100%, man. 100%. Look, we'll get to that match in a bit, because we talked last month, didn't we, about like having that fun match. This is that fun match I think we've been looking for. So, and it's an interesting card. You know, I want to get back to your point about In Your House as well in a moment. We're going to bring in Rob very soon. Our resident luchador is waiting in the wings, so we're going to bring him in very, very soon as well. I'm going to quickly get some of his comments, and then we'll do that as well. Entertain Nerd is in the house. Says, hey, hello, Lucas. It's Alan. There you go. You know an Alan. Okay, how much was the pasta, says Mark? How much was the pasta we talked about earlier, Lucas?
Guesses in the comments.
Guesses in the comments. Oh, it was you big. I'm going to say London. I'm going to say $12.95. Whoever gets closest, what do we get? You going to buy us a pasta, Lucas? Jot your comments. If you heard Lucas's selling of the pasta earlier on, bearing in mind he lives in London, so prices are a little bit, and it was on a delivery app, so they're going to be up there. Let's even get the closest guess to Lucas's price he paid. Chance of we want Mello in a pre-show, says Mark. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if Mello does appear tonight. Maybe he could show up in the Sami Zayn Trick Williams thing. We haven't really touched on that, so maybe we'll do that in a bit. Lucas with the Adventure Island whisper. Lucas, was you at Adventure Island today?
Yeah, it was. Well, I told you I went South End, didn't I?
I knew you were in South End, but I didn't think you were. Oh, okay. Well, I hope you had fun, mate. Casper says, looking forward to the new day if they join AEW after their release. Would love to see him in AEW. Just interested as a competition for WWE 2K, but did see WWE want to try and sign Xavier. Yeah, that is an interesting point. Of course, all the video game stuff will have to change now as well. And yeah, whether or not they showing up in AEW, I mean, AEW got a big show coming up at the Wembley Stadium that I think they could have a nice tag team match at. So let's see if they do something there. Entertainer says, John Cena to U-turn on his retirement, as far as what Cena could be saying here. Again, I mentioned this earlier on. I'd be pretty annoyed if that was the case. It would tick those boxes, it would change WWE and it would be a monumental thing in his career, but it shouldn't happen, right? Hopefully it's not the case. Danhausen's now been interviewed backstage, by the way, on the Countdown show. Casper says Xavier Woods back, but would love to see Seth and then both go. The New Day go to AEW. I would love WrestleMania going to Ireland one year. That would be cool, says Casper. That would be good. Yeah, I think the Irish fans would be a very, very fun fan base when it comes to chants and things like that. So yeah, I would have to agree to you, and I'd probably hop over there if I could as well. Entertainer says Wembley and Cardiff. If we're talking 2 nights and 2 locations, hey, you don't have to convince me any more than that, mate. I had one of the greatest weekends of my wrestling fandom in Cardiff for Clash at the Castle. I would love to go that for a WrestleMania. It was so good, wasn't it? Everything about it. The show itself was great. There's so much hype and excitement, but Cardiff itself, beautiful place. Really, really would love to go back there for a wrestling event. And Wembley, of course, we want to see a WrestleMania at Wembley. Mark says now we get a New Day Rocks chance on the Countdown as well, as of about 9 minutes ago anyway. Casper says I'll be watching Backlash tomorrow. My brother going to try and enjoy Backlash. I'm looking forward to Jacob Fatu versus Roman Reigns tonight. I do think Roman will be losing the belt tonight. I'll be getting Lucas's opinion on that in a little bit, but judging by a little noise he made, I think he is shocked by that prediction. Casper says I wouldn't have a problem with WrestleMania being in London. I won't be going to it. I'll watch on TV, but I wouldn't mind it. It'd be good just for the atmosphere, right? Even if you're not there in person, I think it'll create a new vibe for WrestleMania. I don't think Roman Reigns will be losing the belt tonight is what I meant to say. Okay, so Casper actually means the opposite of what you first said. We're getting the predictions coming in, Lucas, for the pasta. We've got £5.50. One of our predictions here, and we've got Mark saying 17.50. A big jump there. 5.50, 17.50. Mine was 12.95 in the middle. We'll bring Robin in a little bit to see what he thinks your pasta would have cost as well. But Rob may have missed out on the conversation about how good the pasta was. So
it was very good.
We'll update him on that. That's enough. That's enough. Casper says, I know some internet fans are getting bored of John Cena keep appearing after WWE on WWE TV after retiring, but I'm fine with it. Hey, yeah, it's one of those things, right? We don't want to be looking back in the future going, could you imagine a time when we were going, Cena again? But it does feel a little too close to his retirement in some sense. There needs to be a little bit of a break, in my opinion. Entertainer says, do you think they could possibly have a WrestleMania SmackDown and a WrestleMania Raw? I don't like WrestleMania SmackDown. I don't like it being branded that way anyway. So for me, the go home WrestleMania, the go home SmackDown, if you want to give it a little name, that's fair enough. WrestleMania Raw, I think would be even weirder. And the Raw after Mania is a thing in its own right. And then the SmackDown after Mania tried to be a thing. And they kind of made it a thing this year with the three of those coming up from NXT. But go on.
Alan, are you asking like one night for Raw, one night for SmackDown? Potentially.
Oh, is that what you're saying?
Do you know what I mean? Like, you could be like, like
the old split brand thing, yeah. That might be better. I mean, pacing-wise, it might be hard, but that might be better. I mean, if they had done that back in, 2005, like, it would have made a lot of sense, right?
Yeah, I think
that is exactly what Alan means, yeah.
Done that from the get-go. Okay, he said yes. I think they'd have to do that from the get-go, and I don't think it would, annoyingly, I don't think it would fix the problems that they have from night 1 and night 2, particularly based around some of the bigger stars. A lot of them are on Raw, so I think you'd have an imbalance, wouldn't you, between the 2 nights? Because one night would get Reigns, Rollins, Punk, Breakker, the Vision, all that kind of stuff, and the other night would get you get Cody, now Gunther, I guess, is part of it.
Yeah, it depends on the roster, don't it?
Because I think the whole thing when it was just one night, or when they showed one night, and how they've been doing it for the past couple of years, is that you go, it's one show. You're going to see a collection of people from the show, aren't you? So you go to that show. So for example, tonight you are seeing somewhat a collection of people from the show. What have we got tonight? We got 14 wrestlers tonight, have we? Yeah, I think so. We've got 14 wrestlers. And I guess some people on the outside. But whereas if WrestleMania did that, I think the problem you'd have is if Raw or SmackDown, SmackDown at the moment, that's not very good. Oh, Don't know. Yeah, if one of the brands, and it's usually SmackDown, isn't very good, that night it's not selling any tickets. Everyone's going to the other night. And so I think it might actually worsen the problem. Because the thing is, now they've got into a habit of obviously announcing which matches are going on the nights. And they often
Yeah.
do that a couple of weeks before the show. I think their hope, though, previously would be that both nights would just sell out anyway. And that
And they wouldn't know, and you'd
they
be
would need
locked
to.
in, sort of thing. Yeah.
And again,
Yeah.
going back to if they decide to do 2 nights and it's internationally or whatever, that could be the other issue there. Like if, say, for instance, let's say they do London and Tampa, we're in Tampa tonight, right? Let's say they see that London's not selling. Do they go panic mode and go, right, let's move Roman Reigns over to London, and then we give Tampa, Cody Rhodes or, whatever it is.
Yeah, a lot would hinge on that first one as well, right? Because the wrestlers themselves would start going, I want to be in this. Like, I think at the start, people would like the idea. So let's say the first one was London. If it had the 2-night thing in 2 different locations, one of them was international, I think that would make people at first go, you know what, I want to be there for the London one. I think that'd be exciting. But if the first one doesn't go well and the second one doesn't go well, and it starts to be very different between night 1 and night 2, then they're going to start looking at it and going, I want to be at the real one. I want to be at the American one or wherever it may be. So even that might create issues, within the company as well.
Well, yeah, because also you could look at the fact talent could, like I said, you get some talent who don't travel internationally. Obviously Brock Lesnar now retired as far as the script is saying, I guess. He was a famous one. He wouldn't travel. So if you had Brock Lesnar on the card, he would only do the best of the American.
Yeah.
And Roman Reigns, again, someone who he has a little bit the last year or so. They've kind of loosened up, it seems. But he is someone who previously didn't travel for shows. And then obviously there's people that have had issues with travelling for stuff that they've done in their lives. Probably Jacob Fatu, I guess, at the moment, I guess. Jacob Fatu, probably the Usos in the past, obviously have had lots of problems getting to Europe because of their misdemeanors. Jeff Hardy, when he was on the roster, of course. Always something wrong with him. But you know what I mean? Like, there's people like that. So again, that would basically dictate that those people would have to thing. And also then it would tie in everything. This is the thing, like, we haven't seen it yet, but obviously next year's WrestleMania, as of now, is still in Saudi Arabia. We don't know if it's 1 night, 2 nights, whatever, but the deal is at the moment that it is going to Saudi Arabia next year. It obviously would affect the Mania build, because if you've got people, like I said, who can't travel or who don't want to travel, where does that leave them in the WrestleMania road? Like, does that leave them basically, right, well, you're not going to basically be on TV from the Rumble to...
but
Backlash.
that's the problem they have if it is in one location internationally. But the benefit of this system that we're talking about, 2 locations, and especially one is international, one in America, that is how they can get around it. If someone can't go to London for 2 nights, well, it's okay, because one of the nights is in, Alabama or something like that. It'd be a lot simpler to do that. Let's bring Rob into the conversation and see what he thinks. Rob, there are conversations going on about the moment, around at the moment, I should say, about the potential for WrestleMania being 2 nights and how that could be a 2-location thing. We look back to WrestleMania 2 where it was in 3 different locations. What are your thoughts on turning the 2-night WrestleMania into a 2-location WrestleMania?
I am all for it. As a viewer, let's say for example, it goes Italy and there is in America, or it goes Saudi America or something like that. So it's split up, as you guys are already talking, right? I like the idea because it's a bit fresher. I do have some negative things though. Whereas when we have WrestleMania, regardless of where you have the whole WrestleMania access thing. You have the show, like, the bits that are behind it. You can do like a little tour of all the like, kind of like a WrestleMania warehouse kind of thing. You get to see all those bits. So they'd have to either split that or have that in one location, and you have to do something else for somewhere else. So one side gets it, one side doesn't. The Hall of Fame would be better, in my opinion, as you guys said, like maybe SummerSlam. However, if they're keeping it a Mania, if they're doing a WrestleMania thing and they're having the access to see all the people's like old school stuff, kind of like the museum, then I'd have that in one place, but I'd do the Hall of Fame in the other location. So then you make that just limited to those guys. But you have to make it more special. It has to be a special attraction.
The only other thing you could do with Hall of Fame is, again, you just do it a week before.
Yeah.
Like, or actually, you do it at SummerSlam, and then you have them make appearances at the respective WrestleManias. And because they induct 6 people usually, like a tag team, a woman. If you like 6 people celebrity, you have 3 each night, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, do it for me. Do it at SummerSlam, and as you say, Lucas, almost like a year worth thing where they bring them out at WrestleMania as well. They use them throughout the year in different ways. Maybe not all of them. Maybe they can't all agree to that, but I think that's a good way to get more out of them anyway. I mean, often they get signed to Legends contracts because of Hall of Fame. So it'd be smart to kind of do something there. And as Rob said, like if you start having international ones, then you've kind of, or even 2 locations, you've got to decide what goes where. If they were adamant about keeping the Hall of Fame on WrestleMania weekend, then you had an international one. For me, do the Hall of Fame in America, because most of the talent from the past is going to be American anyway. It's going to be in front of an American audience when it comes to the Hall of Fame speeches and stuff like that. I think that would be probably better. Like if I was an American superstar that had a WWE Hall of Fame career, and they told me that my Hall of Fame induction was going to be somewhere in Europe, for example, I'd probably be like, I kind of wish it was back at, so all my family and friends can come. Do you know what I mean? Like, all right, bringing them. If WWE was going to fly them all to whichever location, might be nice anyway. But, they tend to tie in Hall of Fame inductions sometimes with, the location that person is synonymous for anyway. Austin going in Texas, for example. The Von Erichs doing the same thing. So it'd be nice to kind of keep that alive. Anyway. Let's move into Backlash, though. Let's get to some of these comments here as well. Mark says, 20 years ago, not today, but the Backlash video was made, and now it's just a Danhausen meme. I've enjoyed that Danhausen meme, I've got to say, of him just going, Backlash, and then bringing it into his kind of character as well on SmackDown this past Friday night. Casper says, hi, Lucas, what did the gingerbread man stuff on SmackDown? As I said to our Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling, I don't mind SmackDown last night. It was a fun show. We'll get to the gingerbread man stuff in a little bit, I'm sure, when we talk about Trick Williams and Sami Zayn. Mark says, WWE are teasing Danhausen's partner loves money. That's an interesting little tease for that. Okay. That's who I thought was straight away as well. Fun show. I watched it this morning, says Casper, as far as SmackDown, and says, I wonder if Becky Lynch versus Sol Ruca will be at Saturday night's main event or Clash in Italy, and also says hello to Rob as well. That's a good point. As Lucas said earlier on, we don't have anything for Saturday night's main event, but they certainly got into a few between those two, so that could be showing up there. According to Scarlet Bill, though, and Kid Across, they blame TKO for the deals not getting done in WWE. Not WWE, says Mark as well. A lot of stuff going on around at the moment about TKO and contracts. So that is certainly the flavour of the month when it comes to contracts discussion. Let's move into the card itself, though, guys. Again, there is a rumoured order. So we're going to go through that on this little rundown of the card. We'll start off with the match that is apparently set to open. Bron Breakker versus Seth Rollins. This, of course, is a long-term feud that, in my opinion, needs to have one clear winner, and that is Bron Breakker. The only way I see anything beyond this is if this feud continues for much longer and Seth Rollins wins only for Bron Breakker to get the win eventually. But already this feud has started to drag because of the unfortunate injuries to both guys. So in my opinion, this should and it probably will end with Bron Breakker, but will it end that way tonight? I'm leaning towards yes, because I just want something new for both of them, and I think Bron should probably get back involved with the rest of the division, because he seems to have been weirdly apart from him lately, and maybe that means getting back involved with Rollins anyway, or maybe that means they go into something else, or they start to disband division. I said on yesterday's weekend kickoff show that this is starting to remind me of when Curtis Axel and Cesaro were Paul Heyman guys, and then all of a sudden it didn't really matter and he wasn't really with them anymore. So it'll be interesting to see where the division go after this, but it feels like a very separate thing to Bron Breakker, to Paul Heyman at times, and to Seth Rollins and that storyline as well. Let's throw it over to Rob first of all. What are your thoughts on this potential opening match between Seth Rollins and Bron Breakker? Do you see the feud ending here, and who do you see coming out on top at the end of Backlash?
Look, I think it's that if you have Seth opening, don't forget as well, we've got the first hour's free for ESPN, right?
Yeah.
So they want to open with something big. But I actually think that something big there is Seth Rollins, not Bron Breakker yet. I think Bron has a name to him. But I think since they've been doing this ESPN stuff, he's kind of come back from this injury. I think they're trying to do they're trying to flash him forwards to, this is the next kind of about the Lesnar pun, but the next big thing. This is that. This is going to be the guy. You know, this is our future guy. So I think having him on the first hour is for that reason, which is why I think these guys are really opening the show. I think it's going to be a solid match. In terms of winning, though, oh man, it has to be Bron, right? I mean, if Seth wins, again, it's one of those things. Seth wins, then he moves on. Fine, Seth wins, that's it. You know, he does whatever he does. The crowd's still going to sing for him. If Bron wins, it means more. You know, it's going to make a bigger difference. I think if Bron loses, all it does is damage Bron even more. And he's already just come back from an injury. That first spear,
yeah, not the best year, right?
Yeah, so
2026 at least.
Yeah, I think it has to be Bron here. Bron's got to go over, and I think they're going to do it in a way maybe where what I would like to see is a referee stoppage, but not in a way that we'd normally look at it. I think Bron does the spear, for example, then another one, and it gets to a point where Seth can't get up, and that's the reason the ref stops the match, is that because he physically can't move. I think that's a really strong way to show how dominant Bron can be with that spear, and if anyone gets hit on it, then you know it's game over. I think they're going to try and do that. So I think it's a really good way to do it. It's a nice way to utilize the spear. We know he's got speed, he's got the agility. So yeah, look, I think Bron wins, but I think he has to win that way. It has to be, if he wins, I think a clean win is great. I don't mind a clean win. I don't want the interference. But if it's a solid clean win, I think it has to be that way. So it makes him look dominant, because now, I mean, we've got Obafemi, but if Brock's just retired, we're losing these guys that look menacing, and I think we need someone that's got that speed and agility, you know, and that strength. So I think that's the way to do it.
Yeah, some really good points there, especially about kind of rebuilding Bron in that image of someone that is just kind of you know, devastating, really. I do like that idea, and as you say, they've kind of played into the several, I mean, with Bron and Bronson really doing their move several times. You know, lately it's a bit awkward when it's a heel and the fans are like, one more time, one more. You're supposed to be cheering for the guy that's hurt on the floor, you know, so sometimes they fall into that trap, and I think that will probably potentially do that as well. But that's not to say it won't kind of make that move look strong, as you say, Rob. And I think, again, it's probably something that Bron Breakker needs. Again, he hasn't had the best 2026 so far, not just because of the injury, but the start of it, you know, that match with CM Punk didn't really go down the way people felt it maybe should and could have. And yeah, you think at WrestleMania, again, injury was a big part of that. You know, he could have been in a major match where it looked like it was a crowning moment, and it didn't happen that way. So this is an opportunity to kind of start to reverse some of that, I guess, damage, if you will, that's kind of been attached to his 2026. Lucas, what are your thoughts there, man? Especially kind of looking at that kind of need to rebuild Bron in this kind of, you know, destructive image. And I mean, I think they've done a good job on Raw lately, if I'm honest.
Yeah, they have done. I think Rollins is. I think Rollins is winning though tonight. I think that's the better option out of the two. Bron, I think he still needs time to be built up. I don't think he's ready to beat Rollins just yet. I think it would be a bit weird. And Rollins taking like 2 losses in a row, I think that's a bit weird also. Because obviously there's a lot of stock in Rollins. And they may... The thing is, I think before, I did think maybe they might do this at SummerSlam as well. So going into Rob's idea, that could work. But I would actually still see Rollins winning even with that. I'll see Rollins winning. Like maybe he gets out of the way of the spear, cheeky little pin, 1, 2, 3. Rollins celebrates, then Bron goes crazy, beats him up, attacks him. That's Rollins then written off until Rollins obviously comes back later on, probably for SummerSlam, and then faces Bron, and then Bron can beat him at SummerSlam potentially. But I think tonight, particularly at starting the show, I think they're going to play it safe and they're going to have Rollins win. It's on the ESPN.
Wow.
Am I right? It's in the last hours also free on ESPN as well today.
Is it? Okay, well, that would make more sense because it looked like the sort of Cena thing was going to be in the first hour for that reason, and now the rumor is it is going to be before the main event. So that would now fit into that as well. But that is so bizarre to put the first and last hour of a PLE free. It's like, why are you paying for this service? You know what I mean? That's.
It must
I
have
mean,
been
I don't think it's going to be a long
doing
show
something.
either.
But surely at this point, the better option would be just to say this is like a free event, you know.
Yeah, like to pick. Yeah,
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 like,
yeah.
you've had WrestleMania now, and like this is, Backlash, and just you got the fans still there, kind of willing to, watch it still. So make it a free event, isn't it? Make it a free event on ESPN 2 or Plus.
Two of the hours are free, then they might as well, because I don't think it's going much beyond a third hour anyway.
No,
Because
it's only got 5
That
minutes.
third hour is going to be
Most-
Five
advertising.
minutes
yeah.
of promo.
yeah, exactly.
Even with their amount of advertisements. But yeah, no, I think this would be a really good way to start the show, though. I think this could be one of the best matches of the night if they play it right. I do fear they're going to go into interference overload, particularly on ESPN. And the Vision are part of it. But basically, I see there's another option here where I'm thinking that might work better for Bron, is if Bron loses and then he feuds with the Vision and that they all break up essentially. That gives him obviously matches against Logan and against Austin to kind of build up, similar to how they've kind of been rebuilding Finn for the Judgment Day feuding.
And it was good as a
Vision's
babyface
it's
as
very
well,
weird
so it's a
faction.
good opportunity there.
It's a very weird faction of the Vision. It's right now. Do you know what I mean? From where it started. And remember, it only started last year at WrestleMania, didn't it? Really, like obviously, not Raw after Mania, I guess actually.
Yeah.
When Bron Breakker joined, and a few weeks later, Bronson rejoined, and then they kicked Rollins out, and then Bron got injured, and Bronson got injured, and now it's somehow Logan Paul and Austin Theory. But yeah, I mean, this should be a good way to start the show though. But I see Rollins winning either via DQ or just a clean win.
All right, so that is the Room-In opener, Seth Rollins versus Bron Breakker, a feud that's lasted, well, kind of stretches back, as Lucas says, for about a year there, but will we see a new chapter for it tonight? We have different opinions on who's going to win it, but I can kind of see both sides. Again, myself and Rob have gone for Bron, but I think it's about Bron winning the feud, not necessarily so much tonight, and I just don't know if this feud goes much longer, but I can therefore see Lucas's side on that as well, going with Seth Rollins. Let's get to some of these comments here before we move on to the next match. Mark says that Danhausen has also threatened to curse Saxton if he asks who his partner will be. We're going to get to that match very, very soon. Entertainer said, I would absolutely love a tag team of the Demon Finn Balor and Stephanie Vaquer versus Dirty Dom and Liv Morgan. That's quite a cool match up there. Entertainer says, and Stephanie Vaquer to adopt a darker persona. I mean, she's kind of not a dark persona, but she's got the rock music, and she's got the kind of the headgear and the dark clothing in any way. So I think she would still fit with the Finn Balor as the demon anyway. But yeah, maybe adding a bit of paint to that. I like your thinking there as well. Casper says, I'm sure Bron Breakker has to win and Seth should put him over. Again, I agree. Long term, I think that's the case. Whether or not it happens at Backlash, I'm not sure. Lanil Collins is in the house. Good to see you, Lanil. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for tuning in and sending in your comments. Do you all think that the Tribal Chief is going to win tonight? We'll get to that match very soon, Lanil, but thank you for your comments. A little spoiler alert. Yes, from me. We'll get to the other guys' opinions very, very soon. Casper says, I do like Rob's thoughts about going into Backlash and make a few good points about Breakker versus Seth Rollins' match. And Mark says there are currently 339 tickets still left for Backlash tonight as well. Casper says, but Lucas makes some good points also. It should, hope that Bron and Seth should be a good match. I agree with what Lucas said as well, Casper. I think it would be a good, fun opener. Chip Williams and Lil Yachty has arrived, says Mark, talking about the Countdown show, and it also showed that Sami Zayn has arrived. We saw him backstage being interviewed earlier on as well. Can we bring back Stephanie Vaquer's old music? I would love that, Mark. I loved it. I saw a rumour that it was something to do with copyright or something. I'm not sure if that is true, but man, so annoying, because she apparently fought hard to keep it in the first place, and there was a whole kind of thing about it, and they've got rid of it. So a real shame, because I think it does kind of diminish her presentation.
I don't know who's coming out when that music hits.
Oh, that's the case with so many of them, right? We always get it around the Rumble as well.
I do not know until I see them walk out onto the stage.
It was such a good song.
Yeah,
like it was such a good wrestling song. Man.
It was a good wrestling song. But yeah, obviously Stephanie Vaquer not on tonight. Not too sure of her direction post WrestleMania. Last night, obviously on SmackDown, we did see Jay Cargill make a return and go after Rhea, but also a stare down with Charlotte Flair. So I think there's definitely options for her, and Charlotte and Rhea are really not getting on as well. So I think the SmackDown Women's Division for the main event at least, is much stronger than the Raw side of things. I think, because I don't know who even is there for Liv to face. Answers in the comments, maybe.
Speaking to the comments, let's get to some more of these here as well. We've got Entertain Nerd says, I mentioned to Lucas earlier this morning that I would like to see Obafemi having a much harder matchup after retiring Brock Lesnar instead of seeing him backstepping. I think the only thing is, I get what you're saying, leading longer matches involving Obafemi instead of 5-minute matches. I get where you're coming from there, but it's hard to not go a step backwards after beating Brock Lesnar and retiring at WrestleMania, So I think they kind of need to do this until that next thing comes along. And it's still visually impressive for him to kind of beat Otis. But at the same time, Otis is nowhere near the level of Brock Lesnar. So I do get where you're coming from there. Mark says, did you also hear on the ESPN app they changed CM Punk's music? Yes. Is that in relation to the AFI track when he had the opening video before he came out? I did hear that, which is a shame, but it's just how copyright and rights and licensing goes, right? I mean, if you look back at one of the best wrestling entrances of all time, Metallica's Enter Sandman, being rung around the Hammerstein Ballroom for Sandman, you watch it back, it is not that on WWE. I say network, they haven't even got network anymore, but you know what I'm getting at. Soul Rooker's different music now as well. They should have left it alone, says Casper. Said it again?
Is that even on Netflix, that event, actually?
I don't know if it is on Netflix. And it'd be a crying shame if it's not.
2005, isn't it?
2005. One of the best PLEs, in my opinion. I love that. We actually, if you're in a mood from this discussion of watching the ECW One Night Stand, we've got a watch along on this very channel that myself and Rob did. So if you fancy watching it soon, it's such a good show. Such a good show.
Like better than some WrestleManias and like SummerSlams, big shows. It's generally one of the top 10 wrestling shows ever. I think it's so
good. Yeah, so good. So again, if you're gonna watch it, guys, watch along with it and see our opinions on that as well. The ROH music says Mark, in relation to the AFI track that was taken out on ESPN. Right, let's get into the next match here. We're about just over half an hour away from the show kicking off. Again, it kicks off at a reasonable time for us here in the UK, 11 p.m. So I'm happy about that. Let me know what you're eating tonight, guys. We always like to talk snacks for PLEs. We've already talked about Lucas's beautiful pasta that he's had a few hours before the PLE, and we're also trying to guess how much his pasta costs. So hopefully Lucas will. Rob, how much do you reckon his pasta costs? Lucas, do you want to describe it to Rob first of all?
So yes, it was a spicy tomato rigatoni. I had it delivered from a place called Pasta Evangelists, and it was like a regular portion. That's all I have to say. But it was very nice. It was very nice.
I've gone £12.95. We've had comments around the £5 mark, the £17 mark. What are you saying, Rob?
I'm going to say $19.50, but it was worth every penny.
$19.50 for a pasta.
Yeah.
Oh my god! I think 17's got. Anyway, right, we'll get. Don't spoil it, Lucas.
Okay.
Don't spoil it just yet.
He's gonna bypass the pun, yeah. He's gonna just ignore the joke. It's fine.
No, what pun? I didn't even know it was a pun.
Every penny.
Worth every penny. How's that a pun? What am I missing?
Pasta, penny.
Oh, penny.
That was really good.
It was good.
No. Don't give me your sympathy now, guys. I don't want.
Yeah, but it's the delivery, mate. You should have said worth every penny. Did you say penny or did you say penny?
I'm too Essex. That's the problem.
Because it wasn't even a penny. It was a rigatoni for a start. Right. Anyway, let's move in. Talking of food, let's talk about gingerbread man. Because the next match we're going to talk about is Sami Zayn versus Trick Williams. Thank you very much for the US title. Now, look, this only took place at WrestleMania. Again, Backlash is either in that kind of we're going into the future or we're going into Rematchamania. And this portion of Backlash tonight is Rematchamania. I, for that reason, think it's going to stay on the man with the lemon pepper steppers. More food references for you there. But I've got to be honest, guys. And I said it earlier on. I don't know if you guys caught it. And I said it before WrestleMania as well. I'm not the biggest fan, originally, of the gingerbread man stuff. I think in this day and age, when it was a babyface at the time as well, to basically bully a man for being ginger by calling him the gingerbread man, I think is a weird thing for WWE to be doing, because it's just, come on, it's very 90s, right? I just felt it was a very weird thing to do. But credit where it's due, the funeral was top tier viewing in my opinion. I really liked it, and I've liked what they've been doing lately with it. Anyway, as much as I was like, I don't really like the booking originally. Look, they're running with it, and I think it's been good. The funeral was a fantastic segment in my opinion. Everything they did on SmackDown related to it was silly, ridiculous, but I liked it. But what's weird about this, guys, is that is the biggest part of this feud. And what we've also got in the middle of it all is the US Championship, a man in Trick Williams who is over like Rover and becoming a babyface, and a man in Sami Zayn who's telling a good story, I might add, of being this deluded heel. You know, the best kind of heels are the deluded heels, right? Who have kind of have a point, but are still confused about where they stand in their kind of fandom, appreciation with the fans. Because he was saying on SmackDown, I'm doing this for my ride or dies, and he was still getting booed. So I kind of like what they're doing there. I was saying on last night's Weekend Kickoff show, I wasn't sure the switch had worked. I know a lot of people talked about WrestleMania it being a double turn, and it wasn't. It still continued to be that slow burn. I'm not sure it's fully worked because Trick still feels like a bit like a heel, even though he's naturally being turned by the fans, don't get me wrong. And Sami is definitely a heel, but there's something not clicking here. And the best thing they've got is the Gingerbread Man and Lil Yachty, which is still making the Lil Yachty side of it still makes Trick feel like a heel, but the Gingerbread Man ironically makes him feel like a babyface, even though it started one of his big kind of heel kind of tactics leading into WrestleMania. So it's a really weird mix we've got here. When it comes to the predictions, I'll be quick with it. For me, it's got to be, and it probably will be, Trick Williams. But I'm going to hand over to you first of all, Lucas. What have you felt about this kind of whole feud coming into WrestleMania? Now that we're the other side of it into Backlash, things have switched around quite a bit. But do you think they've done it in a good way?
I think tonight's going to be the culmination of it. So I think it's maybe a bit premature to kind of talk fully about it. Match that comes into mind, Alberto Del Rio versus Dolph Ziggler. And the match he had, I think it was like Payback. So it was after Dolph did the cash-in. Dolph did the cash-in, didn't he, in front of the Raw WrestleMania, the international fans, everyone going a bit crazy. But there was still the fact that he was villain. Like, he was in the villain. It's Bendel thing, that was the time when he was going around, obviously, with AJ Lee and Bobby Lashley. Big E. Big E, when he had a different surname. Big E Langston back in the day.
Langston.
And, he was still a villain. And they did a double turn angle at the next pay-per-view where Alberto became the villain and Dolph became the babyface. I think that might be where we go tonight.
Really cement it.
Yeah. I still see them doing it with Trick winning. And I think the smart stuff they can do, story-driven in this match, is obviously if Sami... I think that Sami's basically been pushed to breaking point, is what his character is. Like, he's tried to be the good guy, and it didn't work out for a long period. Obviously, he ate a lot of losses to the MFTs at the end of last year. He then had to build back up to being in the title picture. He's planned, obviously, at the Royal Rumble. It didn't work to win the title. He didn't win the Chamber, all that kind of stuff, right? And so then he got his ticket to WrestleMania, but he had to do it in a way where character-wise, it hurt him. It hurt him to have to, do the match with Carmelo Hayes, do the open challenge, and then to win. And then he knows that he cost Carmelo Hayes a WrestleMania moment, a WrestleMania payday, and all that. And that's left him conflicted. But I think ultimately what we should see tonight is that there's no more confliction within Sami Zayn. And I think how they can do this in the match, similarly to that match, because that match they worked around the fact that Dolph had concussion issues, and so they had Alberto Del Rio repeatedly attack the head to gain sympathy for Dolph, to the point where, because it gets to the point where the fans will want to see a fight back, and they won't be comfortable seeing, like, even if it is the villain, basically in a position where they're, like, potentially dangerous. So I potentially think they could do something along those lines, where Sami, again, his finisher is the lubricant, to be fair, so it could be something along those lines, where obviously Sami tries to go too far doing something, and potentially either caught out by the referee or caught out by Trick himself into the finish. You could also do it with Sami winning because of this as well, but I don't think taking the belt off Trick would be the best decision at the moment, particularly when they're fighting the fact that a lot of people are saying the creative is same old, and that they're not letting new stars kind of have that moment. So I do think that Trick winning and Sami turning is the best option that they got here. So I would go for Trick winning, but I do think the final of this, and the reason why it is the rematch is because they want to do the finality of the turn. They knew over WrestleMania weekend it will get swirled up with everything else that went on. Tonight's its night to shine, and I think that's why they're going to do it.
I think you made some really good points there about kind of just focusing in on the actual moment that it's clear the turn has happened on both sides. I think that's a really good point. That's a good way to do it. Mark also sees those parallels with Payback as well. Says because Del Rio did the non-stop kicking, as you mentioned, going against
brilliant match.
Dolph Ziggler there. Yeah. Payback is funny, right? Because it clearly was the replacement for Backlash.
Yeah.
Because it's the same sort of thing. Backlash, Payback. They did. I would like them to do Backlash where it is, because traditional, and then make Payback the SummerSlam Backlash. That's what I think they should do. So something like that. Let's get to some of these comments here. Then I'm going to throw it over to Rob to hear his thoughts on the US title match as well. Mark says on the panel when they asked about Danhausen's partner, they're trying for CM Punk. We're going to get to that one in a little bit. Going back to the pasta conversation, Entertainer picked up on the note, said we're very on the joke, we're very penne, but then said pasta on that joke. Nice. I appreciate it. I'm getting hungry now, guys, by the way. I'm having my reheated takeaway pizza in a little bit, so I'm getting excited, but I'm in the mood for pasta, I've got to be honest. Casper says Trick Williams has to win tonight in Backlash, in my opinion. Again, I agree with you, Casper. And then Janet says Fatu, you know what I mean? We'll be talking about Fatu later on, Janet. Stay tuned. We will do our predictions for the World Heavyweight Championship match in a moment as well. Mark says, I've got a feeling that Cody defends the title against Sami at Saturday night's main event. That's kind of a match I can see happening as well. We've been talking about how they could do something at Saturday night's main event. They haven't really announced anything. It'd be weird to kind of get away the Gunther match, but we'll see where we go with that one. Let's bring it back to the US title match, though. Again, the gingerbread man's been a big part of this storyline, but tonight it seems to be all about the gold and not the ginger. Rob, what are your thoughts on this feud and where you see it going after Backlash?
The feud itself, I think it's really weird. Like the build using the gingerbread man going all the way through WrestleMania, and then it kind of still it feels like this is teetering on the edge of the final moment's got to happen now, then this feud is done. Like, I think this is where we're at now, and I think it's weirdly, even though we've had a lot of fluff in between, and I didn't enjoy much of the gingerbread man stuff, like the picture, like the memorial pictures, and that was so good. The backstage stuff we didn't really need to have with R-Truth talking to Sami Zayn and making him like crack on screen. It was funny, but it didn't need to be done. The ending segment was great. Little Yachty sitting up like the Undertaker, Undertaker, as we'll call him, I guess, and then kind of taking the head off. Like, the whole thing was just that was beautifully done. But as Lucas said, I feel like this is the moment where we set up for this double turn. It has to happen. I want it to be nice and clean, though. The thing is, when you have something like a double turn, how do you do it and allow everyone to know the turn's happened? That there's got to be a,
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It has to be so visually clear, and then from that, then we get this Trick Williams of a face, and really aura farm and all that stuff. However, did you guys see X and see Danhausen pick up the gingerbread costume from the bin? Did you see that?
Yeah. Do you think that's just because these characters quirky and
I don't know. I love this idea of the gingerbread man being Danhausen's tag team partner. I know we'll get into it.
It's next.
But yeah, we'll get into it. But I do have a thing behind it. So
okay.
Moving on to that one, that's all will be. But yeah, I think Trick Williams gets to win. But I think the big thing here is I think it's the turn, isn't it? It's got to be the double turn here. I mean, Trick can win. Double turn's the main thing.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it has to happen after it, and Trick has to win, because usually to do that, it'd be like the horror of taking the title away from the guy as well. But you
Yeah.
can't really do that when he's only just won the title himself. So, right, let's move into the next match in a moment. I know Luca's got to hop out for just a little bit, so we'll let him do that. So we'll start moving in just a moment into the Danhausen match, as you mentioned there, Rob. This is one I'm really looking forward to because it is different. We talked about last month how this kind of is needed on cards sometimes to have that kind of comedic relief. You have something a little bit different, and I think this is basically what they're doing here. It deserves to be on a card in that sense. Danhausen's been a big part of the show. Lucas, I know you got to hop out for a little bit. Is there anything you want to quickly say on this match before you do, or do you reckon you'll make it back in time to talk about it?
I'll make it back in time. We should switch over.
All right. Well, we'll hop you out for just a minute there, mate. And all right, myself and Rob will talk about this a little bit more in depth. But yeah, as I was saying, I really like the fact that this is on the show. I know some people will probably look at it by the way WWE PLEs are booked lately, that this might not feel PLE worthy. But back in my day, this is the kind of thing you would have. You would have a relief from the rest of the card. You know, it might be a hardcore match. It might be a comedic, silly thing. There would be something different on the card. And for me, that's what this is. And people are excited about it because there is also an element of the surprise tag team partner as well. When Lucas gets back, we'll hear his thoughts on it. But my opinion at the moment is that it probably is Jelly Roll, because that's just the big story at the moment. And I've got to say, I said it on last night's Weekend Kickoff show. To WWE's credit, I think they've realised how much negativity was around the kind of celebrity kind of involvement around WrestleMania. It's always been a celebrity thing, as we touched on last month. But I think they've realised it was becoming a little bit too much. And I think, to their credit, they got Jelly Roll to step back in that feud with Randy Orton and Pat, and I think they pulled it off quite nicely. Here will make up for that. They'll still get something out of the Jelly Roll thing, and I think Jelly Roll is an asset to them because of his kind of I guess fame, and how into it he is. I think he's done well. Credit where it's due as well, considering he's not an athlete, he's not a wrestler.
Yeah.
But it's also a risky move to have him be a surprise if he was advertised. You know, it's one thing to have him step back from the Randy Orton storyline because they thought, oh, maybe this is too much. It's another thing to have him being in something as a replacement and not advertise the celebrity as well. So, again, it would be kind of odd for WWE to use Jelly Roll, but you could also argue at the same time the benefit of having a celebrity isn't always the hype towards it to sell tickets is there, but the benefit usually of having a celebrity is the stories that come after it, of like Jelly Roll did this at Backlash, you know what I mean? So maybe they can still get that even if it is Jelly Roll. Before we bring Lucas back into it, Rob, what are your thoughts on the surprise partner and it potentially being Jelly Roll?
Look, I think if Jelly Roll's there, I don't like the idea of having a celeb kind of in a match unless it's necessary, right? And I think at this moment in time, Jelly Roll isn't a necessary. He could be there, he can come out. I think he does the pull again, you know, like he pulls someone's legs. He's the reason that Danhausen gets the win, or they get the upper hand and Jelly Roll gets Danhausen needs help, something like that. I think something, you know, it's a Danhausen-ism that happens. He curses him, Jelly Roll appears or something, you know. I think that's the role that needs to happen there. Pun intended, I guess. However, I've got two things. One, and I think the second one is a bit more crazy. I don't know if it'll be as believable. But the first one, I think Danhausen. So Danhausen was doing something backstage, right? And he was, I guess, making a partner. Clone.
Yeah. He took some of Brie Bella's hair, it seems.
So we don't know what's going on with that, so maybe he's trying to help them, but that could be something completely separate. So I like the fact that we may not know. Yeah. So I've got two thoughts. One, the gingerbread man, it makes the appearance. He does all the moves that are normal, just a generic thing, and then at the end he hits a GTS. Punk takes the helmet off, and it's CM Punk. That's my first one. Or my second one, which I know is so it's not a WWE thing. It would be more of an AEW thing, and I say that in the nicest way because that's the way they would do that, and their fans are behind that for Japan stuff. We have John Cena, but we don't have John Cena. We just have John Cena's music. Danhausen claps. No one comes out like, wrestling like the. Vince
Oh, okay, yeah.
The whole thing, and then Danhausen makes the tag, and then the Miz and Kit Wilson react to.
Yeah, see, I would like that, but I know there are so many people that wouldn't. And to be honest, I like that stuff when it's like loads of men and women, no kids, and they're just in like a dingy bar, and like there's a few bars, and it's like we all know what wrestling is here. It's a joke, right?
Like,
that to me, it's on its own. It's its own little thing. But once you start putting that on WWE television, I think it's a different. Like, I don't mind that sort of style of entertainment wrestling because it is what it is. We all know what it is, right? But it needs to be in its own little bubble for me. So putting it on WWE television, I think I would, even if I enjoyed it, I wouldn't like that I enjoy it, if that kind of makes sense, you know? So, but I think the CM Punk one's a good one because, look, there is a relationship between them in real life. They are mates. They were friends in AEW. They were friends outside of that. Him coming out and the static hitting and all that kind of stuff is one way to go about it. Him being a gingerbread man is another way to go about it. I think Jellyhausen, as someone mentioned in the comments earlier on, is probably a good way to go. Or CM Punk is also a good way to go. Let's bring in a third option here, maybe with Lucas. Do you have another an option for us, Lucas, or do you think it is as simple as it's Jelly Roll or maybe CM Punk?
It's a hard one, isn't it? Because I think it's going to be something silly. Just because they're going down that route, aren't they? Of him having the cloning thing and, you know, him not having a partner. It's going to be someone silly or, like, for one or the other. Someone really silly or it's someone really, like, straight, if that makes sense, so that it plays off it.
Yeah.
Your Damian Priest and R-Truth type situation.
Yeah. I think maybe the silliness they put into the build is to swerve us deliberately, so it will be someone great.
Yeah, like he reacts to, like if it was, it's not gonna. Let's say it was actually John Cena or like Jericho. It's not gonna be Jericho because it's some of AEW. But like Danhausen reacting to like an actual legend coming back would be an interesting way to do it, right?
Yeah, but I think they can even do it with like people on their roster.
Okay.
I think it might be voice.
I think Punk works with that.
No, Punk's Punk. That's the problem. Punk's Punk. Where
I think he'd be open to having a bit of fun though.
He would be, but
stepping out of the bubble, the world title picture, having a bit of fun, and then coming back later on.
Like you wouldn't have seen like after the Rock loss at WrestleMania 17. Like, I know. But
what's the equivalent back then? Teaming with Naked Midian?
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, or Team Without Snow, isn't it? Something like that.
Yeah, true.
And because Punk's not established that silly side to him, you know, he just a month ago he was like, "I'm going to be the world champion until I die," and now to, you know what I mean? Now to just be like, "Oh, I'm not going to."
Come out as a gingerbread man and take it off in the CM Punk. So do you think it is Jelly Roll then? Do you think that's the most likely one?
No.
Really? I do. I think it is Jelly Roll.
It's too. I think it's Royce Keys. It's Royce
Keys.
Oh, that'd be amazing, especially if he's in the costume and it doesn't fit. In the gingerbread costume, and then it just doesn't fit. We know who it is, and he's still in there. That would be brilliant.
Yeah. If they use that clone, I'd like whoever it is. I'd like the clone thing, and then they come out of the clone thing, and they're in the gingerbread man, and it don't fit, and then it's Rescue. It's like it was such a weird way to do it. But yeah, all right. Regardless, whoever it is or isn't, I reckon Danhausen's team wins this one. Are we all going with that?
Yeah.
All right, let's move into the next match. But again, I think we all agree that this is just going to be a bit of lighter fun, and I think sometimes the card needs exactly that. I know Lucas was saying that last kind of PLE round, or it might have been the previous one. But yeah, I think this is the antidote to that essentially. What else do we have? Kieran says Danhausen tag partner would probably be awful. Kieran, appreciate your comments, mate. I hope for all of our sakes it's fun. I hope it is fun at least. Jelly Roll is the gingerbread man, says Mark. You know the deal's in the house. Good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well and looking forward to the PLE that kicks off in 15 minutes. It says very evil Danhausen with the demon. Honestly, anyone but Jelly Roll. I wouldn't mind Jelly Roll because I just accepted that it is Jelly Roll. So anyone above Jelly Roll, I think it'd be a bonus because I'd be surprised. So I don't mind if it is Jelly Roll. Mark says my mic, or one of our mics sounded different then. It sounds like underwater. I hope that's been fixed. Apologies for that. Hope it's all good now.
I just think if
run through. Go on.
They should have just announced it. A, for tickets, and B, just because it's not big enough to have a surprise, in my opinion. Jelly Roll was just on TV like a month ago. It's not like it was. Yeah, it's not like he hasn't been on TV for like a whole year, and now he's coming back for this. It's like, bro, he was there like a month ago regularly, and I mean, it does make sense. I guess from
and feuding with Kit Wilson about the toxic stuff and all. Yeah. Like, so it does make sense that it's him, but I just don't want. I think he needs to appear somewhere else. I think the actual tag partner needs to be something spectacular. Jelly Roll gets involved later on. Yeah, I think that's position.
It's gonna be him. Just announce it. Just have the match.
Oh, really?
Jellyhausen. Again, the marketing. Yeah. They could have had T-shirts and stuff.
I guess so. Yeah.
No, so I don't see why he would be surprised. Yeah, it's a bit weird. It's all very weird. And it's just like the scene announcement. If it's not someone good enough, it's going to get booed. So they have to factor that in as well. And that's what they have to. Like nowadays, it's how it works. The fans are we're ruthless now.
All right, so just a quick question before you do move on. Apologies. Is there anyone that you would like it to be? So if you could have the fantasy booking of someone in particular, is there a name that you would love it to be? My thoughts are Shane McMahon. I think that'd be really good.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I mean, people said about the money thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
money thing. But I think all that stuff's just red herrings. I think it's just going to be someone who already works there. They may or may not be in a gingerbread man suit or something like that, but to be someone who works there. Matt Cardona, who it might literally be whoever's in catering, like who's finished the lunch first or whatever. Matt Cardona, Apollo Crew. No, you got released, didn't you?
Oh, you got gone, yeah.
Carmelo Hayes, like Ilya Dragunov, like anyone. I don't think it's going to be. And maybe I'm gearing this up just to be kind of like surprised if it is something bigger, but I just don't see it being anyone that's just not already there.
Yeah.
You know, it's someone that's been on television in the past month. That's the person.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because I think, especially with them adding this Cena surprise thing, they've got like 2 surprises. They can afford for one to be quote unquote a small deal, and the other one to be a bit bigger.
Yeah. No, I see what you mean. You're right, though. I think, or even just the idea of Danhausen running around catering, and then, you know, just grabbing anyone. I feel like we could get a potential of. Do you remember with Braun Strowman with him grabbing Nicholas from the audience?
Yeah.
Could it even be something as silly as that?
That's the other thing to consider as well. Like the tag partner doesn't have to be present for the entire match.
True.
The tag partner could obviously come towards the end, so the match plays out as a handicap match. We will investigate where Scott has got to once we have time, but we'll keep going anyway. But yeah, the tag partner doesn't have to be there for the whole match as well. But yeah, so this is meant to be going on third apparently then.
Okay, so do you reckon? At what point then do you reckon they're going to have this? Obviously, while Scott isn't here, the Cena announcement. Do you think they want that on ESPN, or do you think they want that off ESPN and that's in that middle section?
No, I think that's going to be on ESPN because I think
it's got to be, isn't it?
Yeah, so I think that's in that. That's why I think what Scott was going to allude to. I think next up was going to be Io versus Asuka, then the main event of Roman and Jacob.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
So I would think that. Yeah, I think they want it on ESPN.
Yeah,
and why didn't they? Again, look, we're Brits, so we have the beauty of having just what we watch this on YouTube and Netflix, which is great. But in America, why are they doing this to you? Having like the show split.
It's strange, isn't it?
At this point, just bring back the old school pre-shows with matches. Have that on, then have your 3-hour pay-per-view. And that's it. Like, why are they trying to overcomplicate this so bloody much by having 1 hour on ESPN and the last hour on ESPN? Like next, it'll be like the first 10 minutes on ESPN, the last 10 minutes. Like have the pre
middle bit.
yeah, the 1 hour pre-show with Yeah, it's not
The
difficult.
middle bit would be the best as well, because they'd be like, oh, you know what you missed earlier? It was great. This is coming up next. Oh, well, you're going to have to buy it. You know, like, apologies, guys. Did have a technical issue there, so thanks for kind of taking over. We've only got a few minutes before the show actually kicks off, so we'll kind of be quick with these predictions here. We've got Io Sky versus I say Kairi Sane because she's on the tip of my tongue, because everybody thinks she might be coming back here just as a one and done, which would be a bit weird. But Asuka versus Io Sky, guys, where do you think we're going with that? We go with you first, Lucas.
Io winning, no Kairi Sane coming back because she's gone back to Japan, and I think that was it. But yeah, this match could still show, being deadly honest. Just hope
It'd be a fantastic match,
and that the fans respect it. It's the only women's match on tonight's card, which is criminal. But yeah, I think Io's winning.
Rob, what are your thoughts on the Io versus Asuka match?
Yeah, I agree with Lucas. I'm unsure. I don't know if there's going to be a surprise. I hope there isn't. You know, I mean, in the nicest way, if we're having a nice clear cut match with just those two, I just want to see them. I want to see them just go at it. I don't need a surprise or someone returning. Do you know what I mean? That can happen after if need be. But honestly, I really don't know. I think Io's winning. Annoyingly, I feel we're at a point now where Asuka's there just to kind of make up the numbers. And I hate the fact that we have to say that, and it feels like that. I would say with Shinsuke Nakamura, so much potential in these wrestlers, and so many times they've rebuilt Asuka back up for, we're ready for Asuka, and it's a swing and a miss. You know, we strike out with it every time. So look, let's not do that with Io. I think Asuka knows Io well enough to be able to say that you're the next thing. You're a strong woman in this the company itself. So yeah, look, I just put a rocket on Io and let's just make her credible. And I think that starts with beating Asuka.
Yeah, I agree, guys. I think she needs to be Asuka. As you said there, Rob, I think Asuka's time is, I don't want to say over, because she's still got a lot to give, but she's clearly not the future or the flavour of the month, for many reasons. And I think, this is a decent spot for her to be in anyway at this stage of her career. And I think she'll be glad, I'd imagine, because of the history between her and Io. It is a shame of the whole Kairi Sane thing, because it did seem like it was going to play into the story eventually. Yeah. Maybe it happens tonight. Lucas thinks it doesn't. I do think as we've got closer to the Backlash, I think it's less likely. But hey, if she takes the booking just to kind of make people cheer for her, then so be it. That probably helps her look good no matter where she goes next anyway. Let's get into some more of these comments and then we'll move on to the final two kind of mini topics here as well. We've got, of course, got the main event, and quickly just a note on the John Cena thing. Casper says, I know Rob said it thinks it could be the Gingerbread Man, but I have a point about Danhausen getting the Gingerbread Man out of the bin and Danhausen's tag team partner, but I think it could also be Jelly Roll. Entertainer says, I genuinely think WWE needs to stop with the influencer celebrity thing in wrestling. Much like I Show Speed or KSI, just stick to wrestling. I think they've been good examples, the one you bring up there, Alan, but we don't want too much of it, so I definitely see where you're coming from there. We have John Anthony Felix Cena these days, not John Cena down, as in, I guess he's not in character anymore, he's just his regular old self. Maybe it's Jelly Roll dressed as Shrek to go against the Gingerbread Man. That'd be an interesting way to do it. It says, then in the next PLE, it could be Shrek versus the Gingerbread Man. I like your thinking there, mate. Casper says, what about Kamala Hayes being and an opinion hated on the internet, but it might be Danhausen's partner? It could be a guess. Yeah, it could be. I think he's more likely to get involved with the Trick Williams Sami Zayn thing because he was kind of shunned from that match. Wade Barrett is an option, says Mark. It would always be good to see Wade Barrett making a comeback. I like Carmelo Hayes, says Casper as well. Michael Caine. I'm mixing up the two here. Hurricane here. The next one says Michael Cole, so I was like Michael Caine. It'd be good if he was the tag team partner of Danhausen. A little bit what, sorry?
A little bit old, Michael Caine, though, sadly.
Maybe a little bit.
If Ric Flair can go, Michael Caine can definitely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'd love to see Michael Caine in the ring. Io Sky winning, no Kairi Sane returns tonight, says Casper as well. All right, we'll leave the John Cena thing just for a final wrap up in just a moment. Let's quickly get to the main event as well. We're 5 minutes away from kicking off, guys. Appreciate you those that have stuck with us. Jacob Fatu goes up against the Tribal Chief Roman Reigns for the World Heavyweight Championship. I see this as being something that happens in the future, but for me, the whole point of putting it on Roman Reigns was to have a run that made the title look good and made the next winner look good. I think that could be what they're onto, but I think 1 month is too short. I think it shouldn't go for 17 years or whatever it was before, but 17 days is not good either. So in my opinion, he needs to keep it and maybe lose it, as we've talked about earlier on in the comments, a few months down the line from this one here. But Rob, what do you reckon? Is Jacob Fatu walking away as the World Heavyweight Champion tonight?
I hope so. And this is why the idea of Roman having, let's not say a historic reign, an iconic reign. Yes, that would be amazing. Maybe a couple of months doing some bits and pieces what he's doing. That'd be insane, right? It'd be really good to see it. But how shocking would it be with him finally becoming the head of the table again? Doing the Tribal Chief, having Ulafala, having the Usos around him, bringing back this bloodline, and before things really start to get going, Jacob Fatu takes it away from him. And we already have the Royce Keys thing set up. So even if the Usos come out, because Jake has already said, he said it on SmackDown, if you come out, I'm going to burn down the blood, basically burn down the family tree. So
he ain't caring about this family stuff, is he?
Imagine if they come out comes Royce Keys, just demolish both of them, and gives Jacob the Fatu of a nod of approval, and then he's the reason, and with the Samoan grip as well. I think that is such a good way just to get it off before it starts, and then Roman doesn't know what's happening, because then we get this match at Backlash, this another version, and we don't have to have Roman as a face. Fans are going to cheer Jacob, so if you're going to have them cheer Jacob, you need to switch it. So by doing it sooner rather than later, I think makes sense. So I'm going with Jacob.
I like where you're coming from. For me, it just feels too soon. Lucas, what are your thoughts, mate? Does Jacob Fatu pick up the win here tonight?
If this was SummerSlam, yes.
Yeah.
Barely 2 weeks away from WrestleMania, 3 weeks away, where it was. Then, yeah, no. Reigns will retain. There'll probably be another Samoan who will debut to help.
Zilla?
Yeah, well, maybe Zilla.
It's a bit weird when they've just got rid of JC Mateo and Thing, though, right? And Talatonga.
Yeah.
I mean, Tungaloa, I should say.
Yeah. But no, yeah, I don't see anyone else other than Reigns winning this. Jacob, I was thinking of last night on SmackDown. Jacob's done like the best job he could do with this. But this is such a hard match to be the champion's first title defense, like after WrestleMania in particular, but after they won.
Yeah.
But
the Backlash and Rumble spots are difficult.
Yeah,
they really are. And I think it's been difficult as well because nobody knows who really is the babyface and who's the heel, and they're both kind of in the same group and have the same kind of. I wonder if they could play into the Usos turning on Roman here and aligning themselves with Jacob, and he's the new head of the table. It's not the story we thought would happen before with either The Rock or Solo, but it could be happening here with Jacob Fatu, and that could be the twist because he's really been kind of, I don't care about the family, I'm just doing it for me. So to suddenly be like, actually I do care about the family because he's not shown that he wants to be the head of the table, whereas everybody else did. Even the Usos flirted with that idea, so it'd be an interesting little swerve there as well. Let's get some of these comments before we wrap up and quickly touch on the John Cena thing as well. Lose it to Obafemi, says Alan. I'd like to see Obafemi go toe-to-toe with Roman and actual competition and a match that can go to length. I think that would be a good way to go about it. If they don't do Jacob Fatu, I think Obafemi is a good option. Casper says Roman versus Fatu. Roman Reigns being pulled from an all June dates. Don't really see Roman losing. Yeah, a few comments earlier on said if he loses tonight, maybe that is an indicator as to what that the story around his contract really is. Before we wrap up completely, there's two things I want to know from you guys. One thing in particular from Lucas. So first of all, John Cena, what's he announcing tonight? Just as quick as you can. Lucas, is it Club WWE?
No, Mania location.
Okay, Rob, what do you reckon it is?
That Cena is becoming a member of the WWE production team, as in with Triple H, something along them lines.
Wow. Okay, I think it is Club WWE, but I like both your ideas. The last thing I want to know again is Lucas based. How much was your pasta?
The price that I paid for the pasta, 50% off, and it came to £6.75.
Oh, mate!
So it would have been
$5 earlier.
$12.99.
Who said a 5? I got to scroll back to the comments. £6, mate, but that's 50% off. So it would have been. I would have been right if you didn't get a coupon. You jammy.
Yeah,
All right.
I got it with a tomato and cheese focaccia bread. Really, really nice. I got that together with delivery charge. Came to 13.
All right, so the winner of the actual prediction, I'd say, is Entertainer. That's probably the best prediction we've held all night. But I do hope you've enjoyed our predictions of Backlash as well. We'll be back maybe at the end of Backlash. I'll have to wait and see how I feel after it. If not, we'll see you on the next PLE. I've been Scott. That's been Rob. That's been Lucas. We appreciate you. Hope you've liked what you've seen. Subscribe if you haven't already. And once again, we'll see you on the next one. Thanks very much.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.